Chapter 316. This kind of simple task did not require Chu Tian to personally go. Sending Yun Yao and Feng Kaidai was enough. However, the Southern Summer King wanted to be safe, so he wanted Chu Tian to personally go. This was because the frontline communication station was related to the war, so there could not be a single mistake. After Meng Qingwu learned of the situation, she said to Chu Tian, "Normal companies are not allowed to approach the frontline fortress. This is a rare chance, so I'll go with you." Chu Tian was a bit surprised. "The young miss is also going?" Meng Qingwu said, "The frontline fortress is a large market, especially after the war. Food, military supplies, tools, and etc. There is a large demand from all sides. Miracle Commerce going ahead to prepare will help Miracle Commerce expand a step further and will also prepare for the war, creating a solid foundation for the war. After all, the war in Southern Xia will have a large impact on us, so if we can contribute our strength, we will not hesitate." Saying this was reasonable. Then he would bring the young miss with him. Chu Tian would be responsible for supervising the construction of the communication station while the young miss would be responsible for inspecting the frontline market and discussing cooperation with the fortress army. There was no conflict in doing these two things together. But once Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu left, the two leaders of Miracle Commerce would not be here. Chu Tian was going with the king to inspect the frontline and the imperial tutor Gu Qianxiu would also be going. With the calm martial ruler out, wouldn't Miracle Commerce be isolated in Imperial City? Because he was afraid someone would stab them in the back, he did not bring Chen Bingyu or the 18 Yin corpses to protect him. He was going with the king this time, with the great scholar accompanying him, and with the little fox as his bodyguard. Even if there was a sudden situation, Chu Tian would be able to deal with it. Southern Xia's frontline, there were a total of 5 fortresses and each one was heavily guarded, so their safety could be guaranteed. The Southern Summer King had a request for Chu Tian and Chu Tian would play an important role in the future. Although the Southern Summer King was narrow-minded, he would not make a move against Chu Tian. The next morning, the royal carriage moved, with 3 9th awakened soul layer golden lions pulling it and 200 griffin knights protecting it. General Wang Tianlong was riding an earth dragon to lead the way, while Gu Qianxiu, Chu Tian, and the others followed behind, slowly heading north. This lineup was very shocking and the possibility of being assassinated was close to zero. Actually, no one dared to assassinate the Southern Summer King. Those who could sit in high positions in this era, even if they weren't the strongest in the group, they wouldn't be too weak. The Southern Summer King was a bit weaker than the calm martial ruler, but he was still a true spirit realm expert. He was not someone an ordinary person could resist. Who in Southern Xia had the ability to assassinate the Southern Summer King. But the Southern Summer King bringing Wang Tianlong with him was a bit out of Chu Tian's expectations. Although Chu Tian did not like this fellow, the Southern Summer King bringing him out of Imperial City was good for Miracle Commerce. At least he didn't need to worry that Miracle Commerce would be plotted against by the Wang family while he was gone. The prairie was 1,000 miles wide and there were no humans, only the occasional scout post. They did not meet any obstructions along the way and finally a black outline appeared on the horizon. They had finally arrived. This was the northern border of Southern Xia. Everyone could see the largest fortress of the 5 front lines in the distance. It was called the Iron Fortress and was commonly known as the Iron City. There were around 500,000 Southern Summer soldiers stationed here and this was the pillar of Southern Xia's resistance against the Warhound Plains. This Iron City seemed to have descended from the sky, but it also seemed to have jumped out of the ground, standing abruptly on the flat grassland. No matter which Southern Xia person it was, when they saw the Iron City for the first time, they would be shocked by its grandeur. The Iron City was not just a fortress in the wilderness. When the 2 walls of the Iron City converged, they suddenly shrank into one, finally extending over 100 kilometers in both directions. These walls were 50 meters tall and were made of solid rock. There was also a layer of iron armor on the surface that sparkled under the sunlight. It was like a barrier that covered the sky, making people feel intimidated. It was like a giant black monster spreading its arms to the left and right, wanting to embrace the entire prairie. How could this mountain-swallowing aura not make people fall over? This was the famous southern summer city wall. The entire city wall was over 1,000 kilometers long, connecting the 5 frontline fortresses together. Each of the 5 fortresses was garrisoned with the departing Flame Corps and the Battle Dragon Army among them. The 5 frontline fortresses and the city wall formed a strong defense system, protecting the imperial region from the Warhounds tribe again and again. This great northern barrier was built by the first-generation Southern Summer King, using close to 1 million people. It was only completed by the third-generation Southern Summer King, consuming a large amount of manpower and resources, causing Southern Xia to be in a state of poverty for a long time. However, it was enough to prove that this was a very effective defensive project. Meng Qingwu was a bit stunned seeing this. This is too spectacular. This is the miracle created by Southern Xia. Southern Xia's northern Great Wall had been passed down by traveling poets, and Meng Qingwu had heard of this miracle many times. Now that she could personally see it, her life in Southern Xia was not in vain. The Griffin Knights brought Wang Shuxian into the fortress. When the king arrived in front of the fortress gates, a deep and powerful voice rang out, "Open the gates." Hong, dong, 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 dong. Dozens of thick black iron chains were pulled, and a huge metal drawbridge was slowly lowered, filling a deep and wide defensive trench. Then, a seamless iron door opened, and a few hundred cavalrymen rushed out. Each of them was wearing black armor, and each of them held a 3-meter-long lance. They quickly divided into 2 rows and surrounded the king's entourage. An old black-armored general with a white beard was leading several neat rows of soldiers, coming out of the fortress to welcome them. "Old soldier Dongfang Zhan greets your majesty." The black-armored general, the cavalry, the infantry, and even the archers on the walls, each person had the Dongfang family's insignia on their armor. It was clear that these were the Dongfang family's soldiers. For this old general to be sent to guard the most important fortress of Southern Xia, he must have a very high status in the Dongfang family. This old general called himself an old soldier, and his humble attitude made people look at him in a new light. Meng Qingwu was filled with respect. This is old Marshal Dongfang Zhan? Chu Tian had never heard of this name before. Is he very famous? Meng Qingwu said, "The frontline Marshal Dongfang Zhan has been on the front lines for 50 years. Shen Fengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis have all listened to the old marshal's orders. Dongfang Zhan is also a peak 9th awakened soul layer expert, his military merits far surpassing any marquis. Then why hasn't he been granted the title of marquis? This is the most respectable aspect of the old marshal." Meng Qingwu said with a look of admiration. "The old marshal thinks that the Dongfang family already has enough honor, having the Southern Summer King and the Southern Summer First Ruler. The family's position is incomparably stable, so why add another marquis? It would be better to give up the marquis title and motivate the Southern Summer men to fight in the front lines. He would also be able to fight on the front lines without any land." This was the truth. Dongfang Zhan was the frontline marshal, only below the calm martial ruler. His position was incomparably respected, but he had never had a day of nobility. He had never enjoyed a happy life, never married, and had no children. He had dedicated most of his life to the Southern Summer Country, guarding the Southern Summer border. He could be considered a model soldier. The calm martial ruler had once evaluated Dongfang Zhan, loyal and courageous to guard the Southern Summer Country, wholeheartedly dedicated to the country, unparalleled in bravery, and outstanding in strategy. With such a good general falling from the heavens, why worry about the warhounds invading the border? This was the calm martial ruler's highest evaluation of a general. Dongfang Zhan was indeed worthy of this evaluation. Actually, Dongfang Zhan's seniority was higher than the calm martial ruler's. He was the calm martial ruler's and the Southern Summer King's uncle. Before he was bestowed the ruler title, the calm martial ruler had 10 years of experience on the front lines, learning tactics from Dongfang Zhan at that time. Dongfang Zhan was half a teacher to the calm martial ruler, but the student surpassed the master. After Dongfang Zhan was bestowed the title of calm martial ruler, his position in the army surpassed Dongfang Zhan's. Dongfang Zhan did not have any complaints about this and followed the calm martial ruler's orders, becoming the calm martial ruler's most capable assistant. "Old general, please stand up." The Southern Summer King personally helped Dongfang Zhan up and said with a face full of guilt, "General has guarded the frontline fortress for many years, possessing great merits, and no one can compare to you. You have such a high position, but there has never been a day of nobility. This king has been ashamed of General ever since I inherited the throne, so how could I receive the old general's greeting?" Dongfang Zhan's old face turned dark. The king is the king and the general is the general. How could this old soldier dare be rude? The Southern Summer King could not do anything about his uncle's stubborn temper, so he could only change the topic. He turned around and introduced the Battle Dragon Army's young commander Wang Tianlong and the great scholar Gu Qianqiu. The old general is already very familiar with them. Wang Tianlong and Gu Qianqiu cupped their hands. Dongfang Zhan also bowed to Gu Qianqiu when he saw him, but he did not say anything to Wang Tianlong. This strange scene did not escape Meng Qinggu and Chu Tian's eyes. This was a bit strange. Dongfang Zhan and Gu Qianqiu should have only met a few times, but Wang Tianlong was completely different. Wang Tianlong was the frontline army's vice commander and the Battle Dragon Army's young commander. After Dongfang Zhan abdicated, the one most likely to take over as the frontline army's commander was Wang Tianlong. Why did Dongfang Zhan ignore Wang Tianlong? Was there a conflict between the two of them? Dongfang Zhan's eyes fell onto Chu Tian's group and his two white brows tightly knit together. Who are these two? Forgive this old soldier for being rude, but the frontline fortress is not a place anyone can enter. Unrelated people cannot be allowed in. The old general's voice was filled with dissatisfaction. The Southern Summer King was inspecting the front lines in the name of inspecting, so there was nothing to say. The Southern Summer King would inspect the front lines every year. On one hand, it was to monitor the frontline defenses, and on the other hand, it was to reward the soldiers. It was to show that the kingdom had never forgotten them, raising the morale of the frontline soldiers. But did the Southern Summer King not know? The fortress was an important place. Unrelated people were not allowed in. The layout of the frontline fortress and the various fortifications were all secrets of the country. How could they be casually looked at by others? Now he had brought a group of people he did not recognize, especially the two people at the front. Chu Tian was simply too young, but what made Dongfang Zhan even more dissatisfied was that there was a woman in this group. It just so happened that this was a woman of outstanding beauty. The frontline fortress soldiers had hard days and many of them had not returned home for many years. If this kind of beauty appeared in this kind of place, it would cause a disturbance and it would lower their morale, even shaking their faith. This was something Dongfang Zhan could not tolerate. Chapter 317. Old General has misunderstood. The Southern Summer King laughed a few times. This king will introduce you. These two are Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu, the founders of Miracle Commerce. Speaking of Miracle Commerce, Old General should not be unfamiliar, right? Dongfang Zhan's white beard trembled. You are the founders of Miracle Commerce? Why did the old general's attitude change 180 degrees? It was truly strange. Could it be that the Miracle Commerce brand was even popular on the border? Chu Tian did not know he was this famous. Dongfang Zhan took a step back and then gave a deep bow to the two of them. This made Meng Qinggu feel flattered. Why would a famous general of southern Xia suddenly give such a bow? Our soldiers needed to carry large amounts of rations when they went to war. Not only was it very troublesome, they also ate dry rations for a long time. Even if they could fill their stomachs, it would be hard for them to replenish their energy and their battle strength would decrease over time. Dongfang Zhan said this and then said with a face of gratitude, now they only need to carry a few cans of food and the soldiers can fight for several days. Miracle Commerce's canned food has appeared on the front lines, greatly increasing the army's battle strength. This is truly a good invention that benefits the country and the people. So it was like this. No wonder his attitude had changed this much. But gratitude is gratitude. Please forgive this old soldier for not being able to accommodate you. The old general's expression changed too quickly and became serious once again. Unrelated people are not allowed in. This is the military rule. The Southern Summer King was angry and happy. He did not call him general and directly shouted, Old uncle, do you think this king is such a senseless person? Since I brought these two people from 1,000 miles away to the fortress, this king naturally has his reasons. I'll let the great scholar explain it to you. Dong Fangzhan was a bit stunned. Could there really be another reason? Although Dong Fangzhan had not seen Gu Qianqiu many times, he was filled with admiration for the great scholar. He knew that the great scholar was a pillar of the country and had made an indelible contribution to the rise of southern Xia. Gu Qianqiu had no choice. Who told him to meet a stubborn old general, so he could only patiently explain, the general must have heard of the calm martial ruler's trip to Tsang State. Of course I have heard of it. The calm martial ruler is very experienced in using troops. How could the warhound's scoundrels resist him? In less than 10 days, the calm martial ruler will return victoriously. My king thinks so too. When Gu Qianqiu said this, he suddenly changed the topic. The day the calm martial ruler returns in triumph, that will be the day your majesty leads the northern expedition against the warhounds. What? Northern warhounds? Dong Fangzhan seemed to have been injected with 10 doses of chicken blood. His originally dark and rough old face suddenly turned purple. Really? Could it be that the time was ripe? Although the warhounds' plains have internal strife, once there is enough external pressure, they will unite. Isn't it a bit too early to go on a northern expedition? The Southern Summer King gave a slight nod. With the current military strength of the country, it is indeed too early to attack the warhounds, but a variable has appeared in southern Xia, and that is miracle commerce. Dong Fangzhan's heart surged with emotions. If the Southern Summer King had said he would attack the prairies 30 years ago, Dong Fangzhan would have stopped him because the country's strength was not enough to shake the prairies. Today, Southern Xia was becoming stronger, and the calm martial ruler had been planning the northern expedition. This generation's Southern Summer King's counterattack against the warhounds was already a foregone conclusion, only the exact time was unknown. It could be 10 years later, or it could be 20 years later. This was Southern Xia's most experienced general. His potential had already reached its limit and he was slowly getting old. The greatest regret in his life was that he had been defending the warhounds' plains for 50 years, but he had never led an army to attack. There really wasn't much time left. Dong Fangzhan's greatest wish was to lead the army to the north. For an old Southern Summer general, there was no better ending than dying in the warhounds' plains. Now that such a good chance had appeared, how could Dong Fangzhan not be pleasantly surprised? Although every drop of blood in his body was filled with the desire to fight, this old general had experienced many things and fame had never been his goal. Perhaps he was not as strong as the calm martial ruler and did not have the calm martial ruler's military skills, but he had fought the warhounds' plains for 50 years, so he understood this mysterious prairie better than anyone else in southern Xia. The warhounds' plains had always been shrouded in a layer of fog, so no one could clearly see his strength. Southern Xia had indeed become stronger, but it was still a small country. The great summer country had been destroyed in the past. Was southern Xia really prepared to counterattack? Gu Qianqiu was an experienced old man. When he saw Dong Fangzhan remain silent, he could guess the conflict in his heart. With a faint smile, he said, "Regarding miracle commerce, there are too many secrets, so there are some things that cannot be leaked right now. I think when the time is right, my king will naturally tell you. I'll simply tell you the goal of our trip." This secret was naturally the source energy weapons. This was the greatest confidence that Southern Xia had in starting the war early, but because it was an ultimate trump card, it could not be revealed right now. Without the Southern Summer King's permission, he could not say it. Gu Qianqiu cleared his throat and introduced it. Miracle commerce has brought a new kind of technology to the front lines, a technology that can transmit information in real time. When Gu Qianqiu finished, Dong Fangzhan was completely stunned. Really? There was really such a magical technology in this world. If miracle commerce could really realize it, this technology would be a great help to the front lines. Not only would it greatly reduce the chances of losing a battle, it would also allow more soldiers to survive on the battlefield. Dong Fangzhan was very clear that this world did not have any so-called military strategy. Military strategy was to use the difference in time, information, and guessing the enemy's movements. This was a kind of art of war. If a rapid exchange of battlefield information could be established, every reconnaissance station and every wandering scout could report the intelligence to the frontline fortress at any time, and the frontline fortress could transmit the intelligence to the capital instantly. Then, a super-fast response information network would be established. This way, the chances of mistakes would be reduced to the lowest. Even the most incompetent general could control the situation. Miracle Commerce had brought canned food to the frontline soldiers, and now it had brought precious communication equipment. It was unknown how many lives these two things had saved. To Dongfang Zhan, who loved his soldiers like his own children, Chu Tian could only be described as great. Chu Tian said with a smile, "Old General, can we go in now? You have to know that if we are a second late, we will be a second late in completing the equipment." Dongfang Zhan was already filled with admiration towards Chu Tian. "Forgive this old soldier for offending you. Please come in, please come in." The Iron City was not too big and it was very closed, only having 2 gates in front and back. On the left and right sides of the Iron City were battle paths. Because the city walls were 2 layers, there was a long path between the 2 layers. These paths allowed cavalry to pass through, allowing the 5 forts to connect together. The army quickly moved through the battle paths, fighting against the Warhound's cavalry attacking from different directions. The 5 great forts. The 1,000-mile Great Wall. 600,000 elite soldiers, forming a single fighting unit. Southern Xia had used several decades to complete this large project. It was truly using the power of the entire country. Chu Tian did not look around when he arrived at the Iron City, immediately arranging for Gu Qianqiu and the others to prepare. They began to build the magnetic sound tower, magnetic image tower, and ultra-wave transmission tower, these 3 pieces. Chu Tian also planned to build a special broadcasting station and loudspeaker, so they did not need to use the primitive method of the fire beacon. Dongfang Zhan could create a special communication unit that could send out detailed orders to the troops in different areas. They could even send out orders to the sentry posts and patrols. The troops that went out only needed a portable magnetic sound device, which was enough to receive the information from the base. After Dongfang Zhan learned of this series of wondrous uses, his beard almost fell off from his trembling. He immediately patted his chest and promised that if there was anything he could ask this old soldier, he would do his best to help him. Other than that, Dongfang Zhan gave Chu Tian a token. With this token in hand, no matter what Chu Tian did, no one would dare stop him. Night gradually fell. Miracle Commerce began to work. The Southern Summer King climbed up a watchtower by himself, looking into the north with a pair of bright eyes. The sky was filled with stars and the earth was dark, just like an endless ocean. Wild winds howled, as if it had not stopped for tens of thousands of years, singing the legends of this place. The Southern Summer King was filled with ambition. He admitted that he was not an outstanding king. But this did not stop him from becoming a great king. Whether it was the first-generation Southern Summer King with great talent or the previous kings with great military and political achievements, there had never been a person like him who was able to embrace this land. The dreams of countless generations of ancestors would be realized in this king's hands. Even if this king was mediocre and incompetent, he would still be remembered by history. The Southern Summer King became more and more excited. If he could single-handedly turn Southern Xia back into the Great Summer Country, how great of an achievement would that be? Dongfang Hao's name would be sung by countless future generations. At least in this corner of the continent, he would become a legend of a generation. A gentle cough was heard at this time. The Southern Summer King's fantasy had been interrupted, so his heart was a bit dissatisfied. When he turned around to see the other side, this dissatisfaction disappeared and he said with a smile, "Old uncle, why are you looking for this king this late at night?" Dongfang Zhan's tall and old body slowly walked over. "This old soldier wants to give my king a piece of advice." The Southern Summer King was a bit stunned. "What matter is there that you have to say it in private?" Dongfang Zhan was silent for a few seconds. "I'm afraid Wang Tianlong cannot be used." The Southern Summer King was very surprised. General Wang has many merits and the calm martial ruler has praised him. This king has already given him the title of heroic martial marquis, so why can't old uncle use him? Dong Fangzhan gave a sigh. The calm martial ruler is skilled in war, but not in human affairs. Moreover, the calm martial ruler is the commander-in-chief, so he does not have much contact with a young general like Wang Tianlong. This old soldier is different. Although my eyes are blurred, after 10 years, it is enough for me to see a person clearly. The Southern Summer King knit his brows. Wang Tianlong is the most talented general of the younger generation. He has a calm personality, is humble, and does not ask for credit. Could it be that he is not a good general? Dong Fangzhan said, not greedy for small benefits. He is either like this old soldier, not interested in these things, or he has a bigger ambition. This old soldier thinks Wang Tianlong belongs to the latter. Letting this kind of person with a deep heart be the frontline marshal, I'm afraid. The Southern Summer King waved his hand to cut him off. Old uncle, do you have any proof? There is no proof. Then after old uncle, who can be the frontline marshal? This is what I am worried about the most. There is no one in the younger generation of Southern Xia that can be the frontline marshal. But it is different now. With Chu Tian and Miracle Commerce's technical support, the frontline marshal does not need to be that talented. The Southern Summer King was already a bit dissatisfied. What kind of words was this? Could it be they were looking for a mediocre person to take over the wall army? This old general couldn't have gone senile with age, right? Dong Fangzhan could feel the Southern Summer King's dissatisfaction and immediately emphasized, this old soldier is not a jealous person. If Wang Tianlong is really useful, this old soldier can immediately give up his position, only this person. The Southern Summer King laughed. All right, old uncle is thinking too much. General Wang has a calm personality, does not ask for credit, and is not arrogant. Although there is a gap between old uncle and him, he is still a good general. Now that Southern Xia needs people, how could this king not use them? As for the frontline marshal, old uncle is old and strong, holding it for another 10 years is not a problem, so you don't need to worry too much. Dong Fangzhan wanted to say something, but he hesitated. The Southern Summer King cut him off. This king is a bit tired, so old uncle should rest early. Tomorrow, you will follow this king to inspect the fortress and reward the soldiers, raising morale. With the upcoming battle, we can talk about it later. After saying this, the Southern Summer King left. Chapter 318. In the next few days, the Southern Summer King began to patrol the border. The frontline fortress had a total of 600,000 soldiers, but there were only 100,000 cavalry. The soldiers stationed at the frontline fortress were all elites of Southern Xia. The Southern Summer King's personal patrol immediately caused the soldiers to cheer. The Southern Summer King was very generous this time, wantonly spending money, wine, and meat. He rewarded the soldiers of the various armies, raising the morale of the army and preparing for the northern expedition. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu were busy with their work. The magnetic sound tower, magnetic image tower, and ultra-wave signal transmission tower would take a week to complete. This place was not far from Imperial City, so once the 3 towers were completed, the signal would instantly cover the area. Everyone was busy and the little fox was very bored, so it wandered around by itself. It quickly climbed to the top of the tallest watchtower in Iron City and sat on the steeple. It licked its fur, crossed its legs, and looked into the distance in boredom. The little fox felt that this place was too boring. There was nothing good to eat or fun to do, and it didn't know when its master would bring it back. It was a good thing it had stored enough food in its stomach. The little fox rubbed its belly and spat out a pill bottle that was filled with sacred pills. It lazily basked in the sun like this, as if it was eating jelly beans. It threw these hard-to-buy sacred pills into its mouth one by one, chewing and swallowing them, enjoying the small bourgeois life of a little fox. If this scene was seen by Chu Tian, he would definitely slap it. This was simply a waste of money. After the little fox finished the bottle of sacred pills, it was only half full, but it didn't plan on eating anymore. Its master hadn't provided it with food in a long time, and although it had a lot of food, it had to eat sparingly to avoid starving in the future. The little fox thought of something and spat out a round object. It held it in its paws and looked at it carefully. At first glance, it looked like a top-quality white jade ball. It was very smooth and round, and it emitted bursts of mysterious energy. When the little fox turned the jade ball over, a pitch-black pupil suddenly appeared in front of it, as if it was staring at it. The instant it released a powerful pressure, a normal life form's mind would collapse. This was an eyeball, or more accurately, the eyeball of an ancient god. The little fox had risked its life in the central state trial tower to swallow it. The energy that the little fox had obtained in the past few months was rarely used on its own growth. Most of it was used to refine it. This eyeball was originally several times the size of the little fox, but now it had shrunk to a third of the little fox's size. It was only 1 or 2 times the size of a human's eyeball. This damn eyeball had actually consumed this much energy. If it had used the energy on the little fox's growth, then it would have had the strength to instantly kill its master. I hope this thing works. The little fox held the eyeball high up and blew on it. The eyeball seemed to be controlled by an ancient demonic art as it instantly shot out, falling several dozen meters into the air. The little fox closed its eyes and let its divine sense connect to the eyeball. It saw the ancient god's originally scattered eyeball suddenly recover its vigor and its pupils regain their focus. When the little fox's divine sense entered the eyeball and was released from the eyeball, it was like sound going through a megaphone, instantly being amplified by over 10,000 times. Instantly, the entire iron fortress appeared in the little fox's mind. This was the god's view, or three-dimensional view. In simpler terms, it was the divine sense's view, which was not something the naked eye could compare to. The entire iron fortress complex structure appeared in the little fox's mind. Every secret room, every warehouse, every soldier, every nook and cranny. Everything was clear in its mind. The secret weapons in the secret rooms, the delicious food in the warehouses, the positions of the soldiers and secret sentries, and the spider weaving its web in a corner, everything was clearly seen by the little fox. The little fox revealed a grin. This eye was very useful. With it in the future, it wouldn't have to worry about not being able to find food. The little fox decided to test the divine eye's range again, so it aimed the eyeball towards the north. A divine sense was released, passing through several hundred miles and instantly landing on a certain spot in the prairie. The little fox found that the divine eye had a special characteristic. This eyeball was like a searchlight, being able to see several hundred miles away. The entire radius of its field of vision was illuminated. In other words, in this range, whether it was in front or behind, it was a blind spot. It could only change the area it illuminated to change the range of its field of vision. Other than that, the further it looked, the smaller the field of vision and the more blurry it was. For example, looking at the prairie several hundred miles away, whether it was the field of vision or the clarity, it was not as clear as looking at the iron fortress. This was most likely related to the strength of one's divine sense. The little fox's divine sense was not strong enough right now. If it could increase its divine sense's strength, even if it was 10,000 miles away, the little fox would be able to clearly see it. Easy to use. Not bad. The little fox was very satisfied with the divine eye's effect. It moved its field of vision and looked at the prairie. The birds and beasts on the prairie were all carefully observed by the little fox, but they did not notice it at all. The little fox played for a while and felt a bit tired, most likely because it had used too much divine sense. When it was about to put away the divine eye, suddenly, the little fox stood up. What is this thing? In the little fox's field of vision, there was a large group of things that suddenly appeared. It was like a black tide and the scale was very spectacular. There were giant rhinoceroses, giant elephants, and flags flying everywhere. Although the formation was very chaotic, the scale was very large. This is bad. The little fox put away its eye and turned into a cloud of gray mist. It moved like lightning several times and instantly appeared beside Chu Tian. It used its claws to pull at Chu Tian's clothes and it excitedly described the scene it had just seen to him. Meng Qingwu was beside Chu Tian and she rarely saw the little fox this anxious. What does it want to say? Chu Tian knit his brows and said in an uncertain voice, "It said that it has discovered a large army that is currently charging in this direction." The Warhound's army? It should be. Are you sure you didn't see wrong? Chu Tian carefully asked the little fox again, How large is the enemy army? The little fox forcefully nodded and used its claws to draw a circle in front of it, indicating that it was very, very large. Then it pointed to the south, indicating that they should quickly run. Meng Qingwu's nerves tensed up. Chu Tun, what do you think? This little fellow isn't very reliable normally, but it wouldn't lie at a critical moment. Chu Tian's face turned serious. I'm afraid it's true. Meng Qingwu was shocked and nervous. This was completely unreasonable. The warhounds had already gathered an army of 400,000 to attack Song State. This army of 400,000 was already a difficult army for the warhounds tribes. How could they send another army into the imperial region? It had to be known that the imperial region's defenses were several times stronger than Song State's, so it was very hard for the warhounds' army to pass through. Could it be that the warhounds had already been unified? But even if several large tribes united, it would still be very hard to pass through this wall. If they attacked Song State with 400,000 soldiers, how many soldiers could they gather to attack the imperial region? Moreover, since they were going to attack the imperial region, why did they have to split their forces to attack Song State? Wouldn't it be better to attack one place together? Even if Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu did not understand military matters, they still had some basic knowledge. The 5 frontline fortresses had 600,000 soldiers, and they were all the elites of the southern summer country. The warhounds would need to send at least double the number of elites to pose a threat here. The warhounds were in a precarious situation and the large tribes did not have any food, so it was impossible for them to gather an army of 1 million. No matter what, the warhound's surprise attack was a fact. He had to tell the Southern Summer King and Dongfang Zhan of this matter, letting the frontline fortresses prepare their defenses ahead of time. Chu Tian immediately went to find the Southern Summer King. What? The Southern Summer King had just finished inspecting the 5 fortresses and was drinking tea in Dongfang Zhan's command room. When he heard this news, he immediately smashed the teacup. The warhounds dare attack the imperial region? The Southern Summer King flew into a thunderous rage. All right, since they dare send themselves to death, then we'll let them taste the might of the Southern Summer Fortress garrison. Dongfang Zhan, immediately prepare for battle. Dongfang Zhan did not need to explain. Actually, Dongfang Zhan had already felt that something was strange. The sentry post had not reported the situation on the prairies to the fortress, which was something that should not have happened. Moreover, the scouts the calm martial ruler had planted in the prairies did not come back alive. All of these signs indicated that something was about to happen. When the bell rang in the Iron Fortress, all the soldiers in the fortress were mobilized. Tens of thousands of archers took up their shooting positions and various crossbow carts were prepared. The frontline fortresses often had to deal with enemy attacks, so they had already formed a fast response system. Not to mention the little fox's unexpected discovery of the warhounds' army gave the fortress at least 2 hours of preparation time, which was enough for them to prepare their defenses. The battlefield is dangerous. For my king's safety, I ask my king to immediately be escorted back to Imperial City by the Griffin Knights. Now that the entire frontline army knows that this king has come, if this king is timid in front of the enemy, wouldn't it hurt the morale of the frontline soldiers? Do I still want this Southern Summer King's face? The Southern Summer King was not a weak person. This king will personally supervise the battle today and fight against the warhounds with the frontline soldiers. Although Dongfang Zhan wanted to stop him, if the Southern Summer King left now, he would have the dignity of a king. The Southern Summer King was after all a true spirit expert. A single person could defeat 1,000 cavalry, so protecting himself was not a problem. Not to mention he had the powerful Griffin Knights to protect him. Not to mention the fact that the enemy's attack was imminent. Retreating now was not safer than staying in the fortress. Forget it. The battle was more important. Dongfang Zhan immediately began to mobilize his troops. When the Iron Fortress had finished preparing for battle, waves of heaven-shaking war drums came from the horizon. It was like dark clouds mixed with muffled thunder, making people feel very oppressed. The warhounds' army was too big, covering the entire prairies with a single glance. There were at least 700,000 to 800,000 people in front and several dozen miles away. When he saw the size of the enemy, Even Dong Fangzhan was shocked. There was a bad premonition that covered the entire frontline fortress. Song State had sent 400,000 and the Imperial region had sent 800,000. These two armies added up to 1,200,000. An army of 1,200,000 was enough to pose a large threat to the frontline fortress. So why did the warhounds send 400,000 to attack Song State? There was only one reason. The warhounds thought that 800,000 was more than enough to attack the Imperial region. That's right. It was not attacking the frontline fortress, it was attacking the Imperial region. The 600,000 soldiers in the frontline fortress could block double the enemy, and Imperial City had a quick response team, which was the Storm Cavalry. If there was an emergency on the front lines, the calm martial ruler could lead the Storm Cavalry to support them. The warhounds' goal in attacking Song State was not to attack Song State City or to destroy the farms. They were just using the simplest method of luring the tiger away from the mountain. In the entire southern Xia, the commander the warhounds feared the most was the calm martial ruler. Secondly, there was a total of 500,000 cavalry in the northern southern summer country, with 100,000 in the Great Wall Army, 200,000 in Song State, and 200,000 in Imperial City. These 500,000 soldiers reacted very quickly, so no matter where they were attacked, they could immediately send reinforcements. This was what the warhounds were worried about. After the warhounds attacked Song State, the calm martial ruler led the Storm Cavalry to Song State and surrounded the 400,000 warhounds cavalry with the Song State army's 200,000 cavalry. The warhounds used 400,000 cavalry to tie down the calm martial ruler and the 400,000 cavalry of southern Xia. When the two quick response teams could not leave and when southern Xia's strongest general, the calm martial ruler, was sent away, the warhounds' goal had been achieved. When the 400,000 cavalry entered Song State, the frontline fortress would not be able to send reinforcements in time. The warhounds had at least 10 days of time, and they wanted to use these 10 days to break through the frontline fortress before flattening the entire Imperial region. After Dong Fangzhan understood the warhounds' intentions, that deep sense of foreboding became even stronger. Dong Fangzhan had been fighting the warhounds for 50 years, and this kind of tactic should not appear on the simple-minded warhounds. This kind of abnormal behavior, how could people not be shocked? Chapter 319. What changes had happened to the warhounds' plains? The 10 warhounds tribes all had a population of 4-5 million, but they had been fighting each other all year round, so their elite soldiers had suffered heavy casualties. How could they form an army of 1 million people? Although the warhounds were all soldiers, if they wanted to attack southern Xia, normal warhound soldiers could not be used, they could only select 1 out of 10 elites. Not to mention that a single tribe could not gather an army of 1 million people. Even if they could, would they start a war of this scale alone? The only possibility was the allied army. The 10 warhounds tribes had formed an alliance once again. The strange thing about this alliance was that it was completed in a single night. The warhounds tribes that were killing each other suddenly made peace and began to attack southern Xia, catching southern Xia off guard. Where did the warhounds get their confidence from? They were no longer the warhounds of the past. Did they really think an army of 700,000-800,000 could capture the frontline fortress? The southern summer frontline fortress had 600,000 soldiers. Whether it was equipment, weapons, army quality, commanding ability, or material reserves, they were all things the warhounds could not compare to. Not to mention the fact that they had a majestic steel wall and an impenetrable fortress. It was true that the warhound soldiers were strong and the warhound soldiers did not fear death, but without double the number of elite soldiers, they could not fight this battle at all. Even if they had double the number, the warhounds might not be able to break through southern summer's barrier. Not to mention the 700,000-800,000 soldiers that looked like scattered sand. Of course, no matter what the warhounds were thinking or what hidden cards they had, it was no longer important. The facts were in front of them. This was a battle rarely seen in 100 years. The warhounds' plains might have changed without southern Xia knowing, but southern Xia was not the same as before. The frontline fortress was guarded by the most elite troops of southern Xia, and with the battle strength of this army, they would be able to block the warhounds. Dong Fangzhan personally went up the watchtower to supervise the battle, prepare the army. The soldiers of southern Xia drew their bows, and every arrow was wrapped in a talisman. When the archers drew their bows, the talisman would be activated, and the arrows would be shot out at the same time. Ice, fire, lightning, all kinds of energies intertwined. This was going to be an unforgettable feast. The warhounds charged forward like a flood. When they were about to enter their firing range, the warhounds' army suddenly stopped moving forward and actually confronted the southern summer frontline fortress. What was going on? Meng Qingwu was very confused seeing this. The warhounds' army's momentum was terrifying, so why didn't they attack in one go? At this moment, they were only shouting and cursing from afar. There was no sign of them launching an attack. Chu Tian was carefully observing the warhounds' army. Most of them were cavalry, and the mounts they rode were all different. Large mounts included giant elephants and rhinoceroses, medium mounts included lions, tigers, warhorses, and so on. There were also some people riding on wolves and lizards. In short, there were all kinds of strange things. Their equipment was also very simple and crude. Although they were large, they gave off a feeling of looseness. Only their numbers were too shocking. When the dense crowd of people covered the grassland, one couldn't see the front or the back, and one could only see colorful banners fluttering in the wind. All kinds of drums, trumpets, shouts, and roars practically resounded through the sky and became the main melody of this world. The most eye-catching targets of this army were several incomparably large monsters. There was one that looked like a gorilla, but it looked much more fierce. Its skin was like ash-white rock, with a large round head, for thick limbs, and a body that was close to 40 meters tall. Its head and chest were covered in several layers of armor, and its body was tied up by several dozen chains. On its back was a large bamboo basket filled with warhound soldiers. The warhounds did not have any siege weapons. How could they break through the 50-meter-tall city walls? This incomparably large monster was the warhound's siege weapon. Normal arrows could not harm them at all, and even the heavy crossbow carts could only cause superficial wounds. They could throw several dozen tons of stone balls at the city, and they could throw the warhound soldiers into the city in a basket. The Southern Summer King gave a few cold, disdainful laughs. It's been over 100 years, and the warhounds have not made any progress at all. This kind of motley crew, so what if their numbers were doubled? Do they want to capture Southern Xia with just them? What a joke! This should be the majority of the warhounds' plane's fighting strength. If we can destroy them in one fell swoop, we will be able to heavily injure the warhounds. The Southern Summer Army will be invincible in the future. Although he said this, the warhounds could not be underestimated. The spirit beasts were not afraid of death, and they would charge forward like crazy when fighting. Even if their formation was loose, they could not be underestimated. There were many experts in the warhounds tribe, and there would often be some unknown little spirit beasts that were peak experts in the 8th or 9th awakened soul layer. So, they could not be careless when dealing with these fellows. Meng Qingwu asked, "Why aren't they attacking?" Gu Qianxiu said with a serious expression, "This old man thinks they are waiting for air support." What was air support? Meng Qingwu's question had just appeared in her mind when a terrifying scream came from the sky, as if the sky was being torn apart. Dozens of giant magical beasts that were more than 100 feet long were bringing thousands of ordinary magical beasts from the ruins towards the fortress like meteors, and also like a large dark cloud that was covering the city tower. Those giant demon beasts were all giant eagles, with each giant eagle carrying at least 600-700 warhounds experts. At this moment, they were purely being used as transportation tools. There were quite a few normal warhounds aerial cavalry, riding all kinds of strange prairie-flying demon beasts, escorting several dozen giant eagles. This was the so-called air support? The warhounds also had an air force? The frontline fortress walls were very high, and although there were giant siege beasts, it was hard to get close. Then they first used the demon beasts to send a group of elite suicide squad up. Even if they couldn't directly open the fortress, they could at least disrupt the Southern Summer Army. In this kind of situation, if they attacked on the ground, their chances of success would greatly increase. This was not considered a battle tactic. The The warhounds had fought with southern Xia, so they knew a few tricks to attacking a city. It could be seen from this point that the warhounds were very well prepared. There were several 100,000 ordinary soldiers and at least 20,000 airborne soldiers. Dong Fangzhan's face sunk. Release the arrows. When the warhounds' airborne army was prepared to attack, a dense rain of arrows was released from the fortress and the city walls. Shwa 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 shwa. Every arrow was enveloped in the glow of spirit energy and shot into the sky with extreme speed and accuracy. Every arrow contained a powerful force as it pierced into the giant bird's body. The defensive methods of the demon beasts were unable to withstand so many attacks. When some of the arrows pierced through the tough feathers and flesh, the talismans tied to the arrows were all activated. Looking at the sky from the fortress, the surface of those magical beasts exploded one after another, causing a rain of blood, broken feathers, and minced meat to rain down incessantly, and ear-piercing wails resounded through the sky. Dong Fangzhan waved the flag high up, continue to release the arrows. At this time, the warhounds' airborne army was very close to the fortress. A warhounds commander on the back of a black hawk stood up and released his source spirit, turning into 6 spiritual wolf soldiers that blocked the rain of arrows for his mount. He raised the saber in his hand high up and let out a loud roar. Kill all humans. For the warhounds, Chu Tian said in a surprised voice when he saw this person, Nuo Luo? Meng Qingwu was very surprised. How do you know him? Chu Tian explained, he is the warhounds expert we met in the Scarlet Swamp. He is a peak 9th awakened soul layer cultivator. He is very strong. Meng Qingwu's heart was very heavy. A peak 9th awakened soul layer expert had actually joined the suicide squad. It could be imagined just how determined the warhounds were. Although they were being attacked by the fortress, the warhounds were not afraid. A group of troops had already landed and quickly landed on the fortress. This did not mean they could break in. The structure of the Iron City was sealed. Even above the battle paths in the city walls, there were several layers of dense iron nets. The surface of the nets was also covered with sharp points. The archers of the fortress were mostly stationed at the shooting windows or in the shooting corridors. How could an important fortress not consider the problem of air defense? The warhounds airborne could bring quite a bit of trouble, but it was impossible to break through the fortress. The Southern Summer Army continued to shoot arrows. Countless giant eagles and eagles were hit, and the warhounds fell down like rain. There were some that fell into the air, falling into the countless spikes of the iron nets. They were instantly cut into pieces and finally turned into a pile of rotten meat. The Southern Summer Army was very orderly. The entire army was moving inside the fortress, so the warhounds outside could not attack at all. However, at this moment, a giant eagle that had been shot by hundreds of arrows and was riddled with scars suddenly swooped down valiantly. It hit the top of the 2 city walls and used its giant claws to tear a hole in the iron net. Although it was eventually killed by the arrows, it opened up a gap. Several hundred warhounds warriors slid down the wings, falling into the Iron City's battle path. This is bad, the warhounds are coming in. Kill, stop them, stop them. Several thousand Southern Summer soldiers entered the fortress, attacking from the left and right. These warhound soldiers were all elites, and although they knew they were going to die, it was hard to imagine how fierce they were, causing the Southern Summer soldiers to suffer double the casualties. The warhounds' army blew their horns to attack. That black mass army began to charge at the fortress. It was like a black tide pressing down on the city, attempting to tear it to pieces. The warhounds' airborne soldiers had already attracted a large amount of firepower, so now was the best time for the warhounds to attack. This kind of momentum was too terrifying. The earth shook and the entire fortress trembled, with the sounds of killing coming from all directions. Was this a war between countries? Meng Qingwu had never seen this kind of fierce battle before. It was too shocking for her. Her face turned pale. In this kind of large-scale battle, a single person's strength was too small. Chu Tian comforted her, "Don't worry, we will win." Damn warhounds. The Southern Summer King found that the fortress had been infiltrated by the War Hound's airborne soldiers and immediately flew into a rage. He ordered the Griffin Knights beside him, "What are you still doing? Go resist the War Hound's airborne troops." The Griffin Knight captain had a look of hesitation, "But, Your Majesty..." The Southern Summer King released a terrifying aura. "Could it be that this king needs your protection? Can't you see the Southern Summer soldiers fighting a bloody battle? You are the glorious royal knights, how can you just watch from the side?" The Griffin Knight captain waved his hand. "Go, fight the War Hounds." Several hundred Griffin Knights rode their Griffin mounts and charged out of the fortress. These royal knights were all illustrious Soul Realm experts, and although there weren't many of them, they were very strong. With them joining the battle, the Southern Summer Army felt the pressure decrease by a large amount. The Southern Summer King walked in front of Chu Tian, Meng Qingwu, and Gu Qianxiu, two great scholars. "Young Miss Meng Qingwu, you should immediately go to a safe place." Gu Qianxiu knit his brows. "Your Majesty is not willing to retreat. How can we cower?" "This is an order," the Southern Summer King said in a dignified voice. "You scholars have your own stage. The blood of scholars should not be shed on the battlefield. Go." The Southern Summer King had already made his decision. He would personally join the battle. In this large-scale battle, although a trivial True Spirit Realm expert could not have a decisive effect, the Southern Summer King's strength was enough to deter the War Hounds. With the king personally joining the battle, it was a large morale boost for the soldiers. Gu Qianxiu did not even have time to speak. Chu Tian's divine sense felt something and he immediately shouted, "Be careful of the window." The window made of refined iron was blasted into smithereens, and a large amount of arrows and darts were shot into the room. Dozens of agile figures followed closely behind, barging into the place where they were. Chapter 320. The moment the War Hounds attacked, Chu Tian's feet stepped back and he pulled out his sword to block the incoming arrows and darts. At the same time, he took out a sword from the gourd and threw it to Meng Qingwu beside him. "Adapt to the situation and protect yourself." Meng Qingwu took the sword and took a defensive stance. At this time, the Southern Summer King gave an angry roar. "Things that overestimate themselves, you actually dare to assassinate this king?" A vast spirit energy came out and turned into a giant shield. The hidden weapons that fell on the shield were all shattered. The strong pressure from the awakening of this source spirit made the War Hound's elite's mounts panic, almost running away. The Southern Summer King was very confident and he had reason to be confident. A true Spirit Realm expert was a peak expert whether it was a small kingdom or a large kingdom. Normal people could not threaten him at all, so it did not matter if the Griffin Knights were by his side. With the Southern Summer King's strength, it was not a problem for him to protect himself. Several dozen incomparably agile figures shot out like arrows, jumping through the broken window. They were very fast and they all had source spirits protecting them, clearly showing that they were awakened soul experts. The Southern Summer King's aura shocked them. These War Hounds were shocked. They never thought that the giants would meet such a powerful character. However, fear and hesitation were the most fatal things on the battlefield. Only the brave would win, so they did not hesitate at all. They pulled out their weapons when they landed and immediately surrounded the Southern Summer King's group. "Scoundrels!" Gu Qianxiu casually sent out a palm. With a strong palm strength, the War Hound's elite's armor and bones were shattered. They crashed through the broken window and fell to the ground, turning into meat paste. Chu Tian had just blocked a blade glow when Meng Qingwu took this chance to stab her sword into the War Hound's chest, instantly breaking his chest armor and organs. Blood sprayed out onto Meng Qingwu's body, making Meng Qingwu feel a wave of disgust. "Young miss, you've done well." Chu Tian never thought that Meng Qingwu, who was usually a gentle and dignified person, would be so decisive and ruthless when it came to killing people. It was a pity that the young miss did not have much battle talent. Her heavenly book source spirit could make her a top scholar, but it could not make her a strong warrior. Meng Qingwu's face was pale. She wiped off the blood on her white clothes, but found that the area was getting bigger and bigger. In the end, she didn't care anymore. "There are more and more enemies, and you still have the mood to tease me?" Hurry up and do it. Chu Tian didn't care and laughed. I don't think it's our turn. Meng Qingwu did not understand what Chu Tian meant. She saw the Southern Summer King's royal robe move without any wind. The source spirit that had condensed into a shield instantly turned into several dozen spears that shot out. This speed was so fast that the Warhound's elites could not see it clearly. They could only see a beam of light piercing through their bodies, and that brutal strength directly smashed their bodies to pieces. Meng Qingwu was very shocked. Several dozen awakened Soul Realm experts had been instantly killed. Was this the Southern Summer King's strength? True Spirit Realm expert? Quickly retreat. The surviving Warhound's elites were scared out of their wits. They were mostly Void Soul cultivators in the 3rd to 2nd Awakened Soul layer, and the 2 leaders were only in the illustrious Soul Realm. This kind of strength was not bad in a small country battlefield, but how could they fight with a true Spirit Realm expert? Before these people could even take a few steps, a figure charged out from the corridor with a spear in his hand, sweeping out like lightning. The Warhound's elites did not even have a chance to run before they were instantly killed by the spear. This general came late. I ask your majesty for forgiveness. Wang Tianlong was holding a bloody spear and his armor was covered in blood. It was clear that he had killed his way here. Behind Wang Tianlong were 4-5 Southern Xia high-level generals, all wearing heavy armor with the Battle Dragon Army's symbol engraved on them. The Southern Summer King nodded. General Wang came just in time. You will charge with this king and repel the Warhounds together. You can't. Wang Tianlong knelt down on one knee and said with an anxious face, My king, the situation is very urgent. The enemy has sent out many experts, so please think of the Southern Summer Country and retreat to a safe place. The Southern Summer King was very dissatisfied. The words did not come out. Wang Tianlong suddenly gripped his spear and a hard-to-detect killing intent appeared in his deep eyes. Chu Tian was very keen to catch this hard-to-detect detail. His expression changed and he immediately shouted, Be careful of a sneak attack. Although it sounded complicated, it actually happened in an instant. Wang Tianlong, who was kneeling on one knee, suddenly stomped on the ground with his right foot, and the energy he had been accumulating for a long time shattered the steel floor. The spear in his right hand released a cold glow as it pointed at the Southern Summer King's head. It was too sudden. This attack contained all of Wang Tianlong's strength. Even a true spirit expert could not block it with a hasty defense. In this instant, although Chu Tian had given a warning, the Southern Summer King was not prepared at all, so he did not have time to gather enough strength. However, he still grabbed the spear in reflex. The Southern Summer King's strength was deep. With this grab, Wang Tianlong's spear could not move forward at all. Wang Tianlong had already expected this. When the spear was grabbed, he decisively let go of the spear in his hand and slightly leaned forward. Leaping up like a leopard, a dark green dagger appeared from his right arm guard and he fiercely stabbed out. The Southern Summer King felt a pain in his chest as the dagger stabbed into his body. A burning feeling covered his entire body. The Southern Summer King gave an angry roar as he sent out a palm with his left hand. Wang Tianlong was sent flying into the wall and a large hole appeared in the steel wall. Gu Qianxiu angrily roared, Wang Tianlong, you traitor! The Southern Summer King's face turned dark as he pulled out the dark green dagger from his chest. This dagger was clearly covered in poison and he could already feel the poison invading his body. If he had not twisted his muscles at the critical moment and diverted the dagger away from his heart, this sneak attack would have taken his life. The Southern Summer King spat out a mouthful of black blood as he revealed a look of disbelief. You actually dare betray this king? Wang Tianlong walked out from the hole in the wall and instantly became a different person. There was no modesty on his face and it was cold and deep with a taunting smile on his face. Because with the protection of the Flood Dragon, the Southern Summer King's palm could not kill him and would at most cause some internal injuries. King? Are you worthy? Is your Dongfang family worthy? My clan is the king. You're just a usurper. Wang Tianlong gave a cold laugh. Do you think that leaving behind a trace of my great summer royal bloodline will make us grateful to the Dongfang family? This is a mistake, a giant mistake. Gu Qianxiu angrily rebuked. If not for the Dongfang family, the Great Summer Country would not have been able to keep its territory. As for you, for your own benefit, you actually colluded with the warhounds. Do you know how the Great Summer royal family was exterminated? A cruel and unscrupulous person like you is forsaken by man and God. The Southern Summer King was filled with regret. Dongfang Zhan was a family elder that understood the vicissitudes of life, but he had already seen through Wang Tianlong's nature. That humble appearance hid a terrifying ambition. Although Dongfang Zhan did not know what Wang Tianlong was chasing, he knew that this kind of person was very dangerous, so he gave the Southern Summer King a warning. If the Southern Summer King had listened to Dongfang Zhan's warning and was a bit more suspicious of Wang Tianlong would not have had the chance to sneak attack him. It was too late to say anything now. Since this is a mistake, this king will make up for it today. The Dongfang family's weapon-tempering source spirit was released once again. This source spirit could turn into a weapon or armor, so it could adapt to different situations. The Southern Summer King turned into a giant purple sword and slashed at Wang Tianlong with a heaven-splitting aura. The Southern Summer King had just stepped into the True Spirit Realm and was a bit weaker than the three rulers, but the True Spirit Realm and the Awakened Soul Realm were completely different concepts. This gap was not something that could be easily crossed. If this sword hit Wang Tianlong, it would be useless no matter how strong Wang Tianlong's defenses were. This was a sword that would definitely kill him. Before the giant sword hit him, the strong pressure already made Wang Tianlong unable to move. The Southern Summer King angrily roared, "Die!" At this time, a general jumped out from behind Wang Tianlong and pulled out a black blade from his waist. He instantly appeared in front of Wang Tianlong and raised the black blade to block the Southern Summer King's lightning-fast sword. Even if the Southern Summer King was heavily injured by the sneak attack, it was still a true Spirit Realm attack. If there was someone that could block the Southern Summer King's sword, that person would at least be a true Spirit Realm expert. The Southern Summer King took a few steps back and held his bleeding chest. It was clear that the poison was even stronger as he asked with a dark face, "Who are you? Is your excellency the famous Southern Summer King?" This person took off his helmet. It was a wolf race spirit beast, clearly a warhound's expert. His eyes were demonic and his aura was mysterious. There was a black blade in his hand that was very simple, like it was made of stone. There was a layer of ash-black flames on the surface. Hellsong Tribe's vice chief, Nether Flame Blade Malim. A warhound's true spirit expert? This was the large tribe that the calm martial ruler mentioned several times. The Southern Summer King suddenly felt very sad. The calm martial ruler had hinted to him several times that there was a problem with this tribe, but the Southern Summer King did not care about it at all. Dongfang Zhan, calm martial ruler, the two pillars of the country, this king has truly let you down. Wang Tianlong could disguise the Hellsong tribe's vice chief as the Battle Dragon Army's vice general and bring him into the fortress. This made the Southern Summer King's heart skip a beat as he suddenly had a very bad premonition. Wang Tianlong was one of the vice commanders of the frontline fortress, and if he betrayed them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Since he could bring a warhounds expert into the fortress, it was very likely he could bring more warhounds experts in or even hide an entire warhounds army in the fortress. Wang Tianlong was the Battle Dragon Army's commander. If Wang Tianlong betrayed them, even if the entire Battle Dragon Army did not betray them, at least the Earth Dragon Knights under Wang Tianlong would betray them. Although there were only 1,000-2,000 of them, they were still a very strong army. This is bad. The fortress was in danger. No matter how strong this fortress was, it could only defend against external attacks. If the enemy appeared inside the fortress, could this fortress still be impregnable? Whether it was the Imperial City Cavalry or the Tsang State Cavalry, it was impossible for them to come to their rescue. Imperial City still had several 100,000 soldiers stationed there, but they were all heavily armored. Distant water could not put out a nearby fire. Stupid human king. Malim raised the plain black blade in his hand and said in fluent human language, "You have been poisoned by the Hellsong, a voodoo poison specially made by true spirit realm experts. I'm afraid no one in this world can cure this poison, so you are destined to die here. Your death will be the beginning of the southern summer country's destruction. In your dreams. It doesn't matter if you admit it or not, southern Xia has completely lost. Malum coldly said, the humans do not have any chance of winning, your destruction is already inevitable. This spirit beast was calm and cold, not like the warhounds at all. Although he was a terrifying true spirit realm expert, the Southern Summer King had never heard of his name before. This was too hard to explain. Respected envoy, this person is very important. Wang Tianlong pointed at Chu Tian and said, please capture him. The Southern Summer King's hands suddenly came together and wild energy soared into the sky, turning into a long spear covered in runes. Malum calmly raised his black blade to meet the attack. When the two weapons collided, there was no sound and no explosion. The Southern Summer King had a strange feeling. When the attack collided, it was completely absorbed. This person's weapon was like a bottomless black hole, absorbing the Southern Summer King's spirit energy and counteracting the Southern Summer King's attack. Malum coldly said, leave the human king to me, you are in charge of dealing with the others. Other than this one called Chu Tian, kill them all. The Battle Dragon Army officers took off their clothes and revealed that they were all famous warhounds experts, all of them in the peak 9th awakened soul layer. This is bad. How could Chu Tian not see it? This Malum was stronger than the Southern Summer King by a bit, and the Southern Summer King had been heavily injured from the sneak attack, so the Southern Summer King was bound to lose. Other than the powerful Malum, the Warhounds had 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts and the rebel general Wang Tianlong. 6 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts. Gu Qianqiu and the little fox could only block one of them at most, so they had no chance of winning. Things developing to this point was something Chu Tian never thought would happen. Today's sudden crisis was completely unexpected for Chu Tian. He did not have any advance warning or preparations, so he and the young miss would fall into a dangerous situation. Chapter 321. The moment the two true spirit realm experts made a move, the surging spirit energy almost tore the entire room apart. Malum's blade covered in ash-black flames knocked away the Southern Summer King's spear and slashed at the Southern Summer King's body. Although his source spirit turned into a defensive state, the strange black blade could still absorb his spirit energy, finally releasing a powerful force that sent the Southern Summer King flying. This is too boring. Malum brandished the black flame blade twice with a depressed and dissatisfied look on his face. Why did you need to use poison? It would have been good to have a fair fight, but it's a pity that Big Brother won't listen to me, making this fight so boring. This kind of insult was a great shame to the Southern Summer King, but the heavily injured Southern Summer King had no other choice. It was impossible for him to defeat Malum in his current state. Almost at the same time the Southern Summer King was pushed back, Wang Tianlong led the 5 Warhounds experts to attack Chu Tian's group. Chu Tian shouted, "Fox!" The little fox of course knew what to do. The soul puppet was thrown high into the air and the little fox blew at it. The dragon lizard beast's giant body instantly covered most of the room and a green light shot out from its mouth, sweeping at the peak 9th awakened soul layer experts. The dragon lizard beast's strength was not small, even these experts had to dodge. Humph! Malum raised his black blade as he charged forward. The dragon lizard beast's green light that could decompose matter was actually cut apart by the black blade, not having any effect at all. Capture Chu Tian alive. The 6 experts attacked again. Gu Qianqiu had just blocked one Warhounds expert when another Warhounds expert launched a sneak attack. Gu Qianqiu's protective spirit energy was pierced by the halberd and he was instantly heavily injured by the powerful attack. Meng Qingwu's heart sank to the bottom. It's over. The Southern Summer King and Gu Qianqiu did not have the strength to resist and Meng Qingwu and Chu Tian's cultivations were too weak, so they had no use at all. It was impossible for there to be reinforcements and it was impossible for a miracle to appear. They were dead no matter what. At this critical moment, Chu Tian pulled out 2 submachine guns. Do you still remember this? Not good. Wang Tianlong's expression changed as he retreated. Large amounts of dark red needles poured out like a storm and several Warhounds experts were hit, falling to the ground with pitiful cries. Each needle had been dipped in poison, and although it couldn't kill these experts, it could still make their bodies feel numb. When Malam saw this, his black blade released a black flame that blocked in front of them. The spirit energy of a true spirit realm expert was too thick, and the level 2 blood-in steel could not penetrate it. There wasn't much ammunition left in the two guns. Chu Tian frowned. There was no other way. In the end, he was a true spirit realm expert. All the methods an awakened soul cultivator had were useless in front of a true spirit realm expert. Unless they could exhaust the true spirit realm expert's spirit energy and charge at them when their energy was exhausted, this method was clearly not suitable. Malam saw that Chu Tian was at his wit's end, but he did not launch another attack. Chu Tian, you have a bit of skill. If you choose to be loyal to the warhounds, I can spare your life. Alright. Chu Tian laughed. You want me to join the warhounds? Then I have a condition, kill Wang Tianlong. Wang Tianlong never thought that Chu Tian would make this move. Respected envoy. Humph, do you think you have the qualifications to discuss conditions with me? Letting you live is the greatest gift I can give you. Chu Tian laughed a few times. Then I'm sorry, not every human is like a piece of trash that sells their ancestors, and not every human is willing to live under a group of hairy beasts. The piece of trash that sold their ancestors was naturally Wang Tianlong. The hairy beasts were definitely referring to the spirit beasts. Shameless boasting. Malam's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. Since you're not willing to surrender, then I'll just directly make a move. I'll kill the people by your side first and see if you can still laugh like this. Malam's bewitching blade was covered in a layer of black flames. Meng Qingwu felt a terrifying killing intent envelop her. This is bad. Malam could see that Meng Qingwu and Chu Tian's relationship was not shallow, so he decided to kill Meng Qingwu to anger Chu Tian. If Malam directly attacked Meng Qingwu would not have a chance of escaping. I'm afraid you don't have this kind of skill. As soon as Chu Tian's voice fell, suddenly, a terrifying aura was released from Chu Tian's body. Like an ancient demon god, it suddenly appeared on the ground. Malam, Wang Tianlong, the other warhounds experts, and even the Southern Summer King were all stunned by this power. Chu Tian floated into the air. That face no longer had the usual frivolous look, rather it was like an aloof emperor, a god looking down on all living beings. Nine-eyed demon god source spirit. Awaken! An incomparably large silhouette appeared behind Chu Tian, and a powerful pressure filled the entire fortress. The warhounds attacking the fortress all felt this aura, and their mounts were frightened, losing control of themselves. The entire battlefield fell into chaos. What was this horrifying power? Malam did not dare believe that such a weak human could release this kind of terrifying spiritual god strength. When he was shocked by the pressure released by Chu Tian, he immediately stopped attacking and went into a defensive state. Illusion technique? No, it didn't seem like it. This power was real. Just deliberately mystifying things. Kill him. The 5 warhounds experts received the order and all jumped up. They released their source spirits and attacked at the same time. When Chu Tian faced the 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts, his eyes were ice cold and his expression did not change. If someone looked carefully at his eyes, they would see that his eyes had changed color. The left was silver and the right was white, with 7 pupils forming the shape of a flower. You think you can kill me with just this? Chu Tian's voice was not loud, but it was filled with the majesty of a god. It was like a bomb exploding in the minds of the 5 warhounds experts. This spiritual wave was too strong, causing their source spirits to collapse and all the energy they gathered to disappear. Soul harvest. The purple pupils lit up. That hazy 9-eyed demon god raised a purple sickle, and with an unbelievable speed, it instantly slashed across the bodies of the 5 warhounds experts. When the sickle slashed out, the 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts were not injured at all, but they did not even have time to let out pitiful cries before they all fell to the ground. They all had wide open eyes and were in a daze. They could not be more dead. Wang Tianlong suddenly revealed a look of fear. He instantly killed 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts? Even a true spirit realm expert could not do this. What kind of thing was he? After Chu Tian finished this attack, his skin began to bleed and his body began to waver. It was like there was a strong strength that almost tore his body apart. Malam noticed the situation. Although his strength is strong, it comes with a heavy price. His body is quickly withering and he can't hold on any longer. You go. How could Wang Tunlong dare go up? Even if Chu Tian's body was quickly weakening, that strong pressure still existed. Facing this spiritual god's pressure, even the bravest warrior would be afraid. Didn't Malam not dare go up himself? Useless trash, father won't play with you anymore. Chu Tian's white eyes lit up and a wave of energy spread out, wrapping around the Southern Summer King, Gu Qianxiu and Meng Qingwu. Space suddenly fluctuated and the four of them disappeared at the same time. That terrifying aura completely disappeared. Malam and Wang Tianlong let out a sigh of relief. Teleportation? Wang Tianlong was shocked by Chu Tian's sudden disappearance. He can actually teleport. After this pressure disappeared, Malam gradually calmed down. He carefully thought about it. Chu Tian did not choose to fight him and instead used a spatial secret technique to escape. This meant that he had reached his limit and he did not have the confidence to continue using this power. This power was very strong. Even a true spirit realm expert would be afraid of it. However, with his weak cultivation, controlling this power was no different from committing suicide. His body would quickly weaken and this side effect would not disappear in a short period of time. Even if Chu Tian did not die, he would be half crippled. This person was hiding this kind of power. Chase, he had to chase. Malam sniffed. Very close, he hasn't gone far. Chase for me. These people's auras were very close and this close would confirm his guess. Since Chu Tian could use a spatial secret technique, why didn't he run further away? There was only one possibility: he did not have enough strength. At this moment, Chu Tian, the Southern Summer King, Gu Qianxiu, and Meng Qingwu appeared in a corridor several hundred meters away. The little fox angrily cried out a few times. It still hadn't gotten its soul puppet back. In order to use the dragon lizard beast to stall for time, the little fox had thrown away its favorite soul puppet. Chu Tian. Meng Qingwu went to support Chu Tian and found that her hands were covered in blood. Chu Tian did not have any wounds on his body and this blood was clearly from the strong pressure, causing his blood vessels to burst. I won't die. Chu Tian was very weak, almost not being able to stand up. He could only swallow a few blood-clotting pills to temporarily stabilize his injuries. The others were not in a good situation either. The little fox had lost its puppet and was currently throwing a tantrum. Gu Qianxiu and the Southern Summer King were both injured, especially the Southern Summer King. His injuries were very serious as he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Gu Qianxiu quickly went to support him. Your Majesty. Let me see. Chu Tian supported Meng Qingwu's arm as he walked over with difficulty. He used his divine sense to check the Southern Summer King's body and his face turned serious as he said in a weak voice, I'm afraid it's troublesome. This poison is very strong and has already entered his internal organs. This is not good. Gu Qianxiu asked, Is there a way to cure it? Chu Tian said with a nod, There is a way. Of course there is. But it's too late now. I don't have the materials and I don't have the time to make the antidote. Chu Tian, just say it. The Southern Summer King looked at Chu Tian with a complicated gaze. How much time does this king have? Chu Tian hesitated a bit. The Southern Summer King's body was very bad and if he couldn't cure it in time, even with his true spirit realm cultivation, he wouldn't last long. At most, an hour or two. Everyone's expressions changed with fear. A hole was blasted open in the sealed passage. This is bad, they've caught up this quickly. This king can't pass this, but Southern Xia must pass it. The Southern Summer King tightly clenched his fists. This king will stall for time. Go find old General Dong Fangzhan and have him guard against the Battle Dragon Army's betrayal. The Warhound's army outside has been disturbed by Chu Tian's aura, so they won't be able to attack for a while. There is still time. As long as the frontline fortress was not broken through, Southern Xia would be fine. Once the fortress was broken through, it would be too late. Gu Qianxiu angrily said. I'll stall for time, you guys leave. The Southern Summer King grabbed Gu Qianxiu's clothes. Think of the big picture. Gu Qianxiu was suddenly silent. He knew that with his strength, he could not stop Malam. Now that Chu Tian was very weak, only the Southern Summer King could stall for time. Chu Tian, this king has always been jealous of your talent, so I have always been biased towards you. Today I've seen your true strength and this king finally understands how stupid I was. With your strength, you will be able to stand at the peak of the continent in the future. Those emperors will have to bow down to you, so what does a small southern summer country count for? You can't die. If you fall, it would be too much of a pity. The Southern Summer King had already made his decision. When a person was about to die, his words were good. Please keep this token well. The Southern Summer King gave the token to Chu Tian. Imperial teacher, please be a witness and pass on this king's final message. Gu Qianxiu was already covered in tears. Your Majesty. The Southern Summer King said in a low voice. This king is useless and has let down the ancestors. Now that Southern Xia is facing a crisis, this king can only face it with his own body. However, a country cannot be without a ruler. Dongfang Haoren is useless and cannot turn the tide in this crisis. The calm martial ruler, Dongfang Gan, will inherit the Southern Summer King's position and lead the Southern Summer Country against the war hounds. Other than that, Chu Tian will be given the title of country guarding ruler, ranking first among the rulers. Any descendant of the Dongfang family that dares to betray the ruler will be abandoned by the gods and will be destroyed by the heavens. Chu Tian cupped his hands. Before he had time to speak, the Southern Summer King grabbed Chu Tian's hand and added, if the Dongfang family cannot be supported, the ruler can abolish his throne and make himself the Southern Summer King. The weight of these words was too heavy. Imperial teacher, did you hear this clearly? Gu Qianxiu kneeled down. This old minister will follow the king's orders. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu also bowed to the Southern Summer King. For the Southern Summer King to do this with his personality, it was truly shocking. Although Chu Tian did not want the title, in this situation, Chu Tian could not reject it. After all, the Southern Summer King did not have much time left. At this time, a sharp killing intent enveloped them. The Southern Summer King used the Dongfang family's secret technique, burning his vitality and instantly releasing his strength. An invisible hand grabbed the three of them and threw them outside. Then he knelt down in front of them and clenched his fists as he loudly shouted. I leave the Southern Summer Country in everyone's hands. You must take revenge for this king. A king that did not kneel even in death was now kneeling to the three of them. What kind of tragic scene was this? The moment the passage closed, a large sound came from behind him. Malam's group had charged in and the Southern Summer King turned around to look at them with a cold gaze. You're not running? Running? This king is the Southern Summer King. Even if I die, I will die with dignity. Malam was silent for a few seconds before nodding to Wang Tianlong beside him and saying, Step down and don't interfere. I will send the Southern Summer King off one last time. The Southern Summer King broke out in laughter. Come! The two of them collided. The wild strength of the true spirit realm instantly created a powerful explosion. The intense battle lasted for around 10 minutes before it finally stopped. Chapter 322. The Warhound's army adjusted themselves and then continued to attack the fortress. Several dozen giant monsters charged at the very front with earth-shaking steps. Several hundred to over 1,000 talisman arrows fell on their bodies, but they did not cause any damage. Only archers at the illustrious Soul Realm or heavy crossbow carts could barely injure them. Dongfang Zhan stood on the observation deck, leaning on his sword, his eyes fixed on the fierce battlefield. Messengers kept coming in from all over, reporting the situation of the defense of each section of the city wall. Dongfang Zhan was mobilizing his troops according to the situation. The battle had already started for half an hour and the battle had already reached its climax. This was a rarely seen large-scale battle. The Warhound's attacks were very fierce, but the situation had not collapsed yet and everything was under control. Dong Fangzhan was an old general who had experienced hundreds of battles, so he had a very precise control over the battlefield. The Warhounds' casualties were 3 times that of the Southern Summer Army, and the Warhounds' aerial troops had basically been destroyed. Southern Xia's casualties were not light, but they only had half of their army fighting, so they could rotate to ensure their battle strength. The Warhounds were the attacking side. Southern Xia was the defending side. Using stillness to stop the enemy and using slowness to stop the enemy, this was the key to victory for the Southern Summer side. Dong Fangzhan did not rely on the number of enemies he could kill, but rather he steadily defended, wearing down the Warhound spirit. As long as the Warhounds did not succeed in their first attack, it would be hard for the Warhounds to launch a second attack. This was because the Warhounds did not have any aerial troops and they had lost a large number of giant beasts. This battle could only be fought in one go, otherwise they would be exhausted. Just now, a mysterious pressure had appeared from an unknown location in the fortress, causing the Warhounds to fall into chaos and disturbing the order of the Warhounds. The Warhounds' army was still fierce, but they were slowly declining. "It's about time," Dong Fangzhan coldly said. "Have the cavalry gather at the 30th pass. Once the Warhounds retreat, immediately charge at the defeated Warhounds from both sides. Remember to only attack once. Don't be greedy and continue fighting. Open the 15th pass to provide support." The Warhounds' defeat was only a matter of time, so he wanted to maximize the results of this battle. Once the Warhounds began to retreat, the several 100,000 army would fall into chaos. At this time, the Southern Summer Cavalry would charge forward and they would take at least 80 to 100,000 heads, dealing a heavy blow to the Warhounds. Who knew that at this moment, a sharp voice would resound in the sky above the stronghold. "The Southern Summer King is dead. Southern Summer Army, quickly give up your resistance." A Warhounds expert holding a black blade climbed onto a watchtower of the fortress, raising a head high up in his left hand. When the Southern Summer soldiers saw that head, their minds almost collapsed. This head was not someone else's, it was actually the Southern Summer King. "The Southern Summer King is dead. The Southern Summer King is dead." This was like a bolt from the blue. The Southern Summer Army was instantly stunned. Everyone fell into a panic. If even the Southern Summer King died, could they still fight this battle? The Warhounds' army seemed to have noticed the movements on this side, so they increased the pace of their attacks, increasing their strength while the Southern Summer Army's morale was hit. Dong Fangzhan coldly stared, his eyelids not even blinking. "This is nothing more than a psychological attack by the enemy. My king has already retreated, how could he be harmed by these evil soldiers? Pass down my command, those who spread rumors and mislead the people will be beheaded without mercy." Dong Fangzhan's words calmed the hearts of the generals. The generals immediately beheaded a few cowardly people that wavered the morale of the army before continuing to command the battle. No one noticed that Dong Fangzhan's slightly trembling hand. My king? Had he really been harmed? If the Southern Summer King had died in the frontline fortress, once this matter was confirmed, it would be a destructive blow to the morale of the army. It would set off a large wave in all of Southern Xia. Dong Fangzhan was not sure if this matter was true, so he could only choose not to believe it. He was the commander of the army, and if he wavered, how could his soldiers fight in peace? At this time, Chu Tian, Gu Qianxiu, and Meng Qingwu arrived at the command platform. They all looked very distressed, and even Meng Qingwu was covered in blood. She had been protecting Chu Tian the entire time and had killed at least 20 Warhound soldiers. Chu Tian was very weak and his battle strength had been greatly reduced. If it wasn't for Gu Qianxiu and Meng Qingwu protecting him, he would have already been killed by the Warhounds. Gu Qianxiu shouted with an anxious expression, "Marshal, we have something to report." Dong Fangzhan asked with a calm face, "What is going on?" "The Battle Dragon army is suspected of rebelling." Gu Qianxiu anxiously said, "My king has given the order to quickly quell the rebellion and avoid a rebellion in the fortress." "What? The Battle Dragon army is rebelling?" His intuition told Dong Fangzhan that this was most likely true. He had already suspected Wang Tianlong, but Wang Tianlong was watertight and he could not find any evidence. If the battle dragon army was really rebelling, the frontline fortress would be in great danger. There was another point that made Dongfang Zhan's heart sink. If Wang Tianlong was rebelling, he would not let go of such a good chance to kill the king. This also meant that the news was most likely true and the Southern Summer King had already been killed. Gu Qianqiu and the others clearly knew how powerful this was, so they did not directly say it. This is the king's command token. This was the Southern Summer King's supreme command token. It would not be given to anyone. If this command token was not on the Southern Summer King's body, then there was only one possibility: the Southern Summer King was already dead. Damn it. Dongfang Zhan suppressed his grief. These damn beasts. Chu Tian weakly walked over and cupped his hands to Dongfang Zhan as he said, "Marshal, now that things have reached this point, we have to make a quick decision. Whether the frontline fortress can be defended or not is all up to the marshal." Gu Qianqiu also said, "As long as the fortress is defended, Southern Summer will be impregnable. If the fortress is broken, Southern Summer will be in great danger." Report. A messenger ran over in a hurry. "Marshal, the Western Battle Dragon Fortress is suspected to have been attacked by the war hounds and the garrison is in a bitter battle. The beacon for help has already been lit." Dongfang Zhan's fist shattered the wall. "Activate the Blood Eagle Camp. This old man will personally quell the rebellion." The Blood Eagle Camp was the Dongfang family's army and was the direct subordinate of the calm martial ruler. It was also a very precious air force. Because of the Blood Eagle Camp's special characteristics, it was a fast response force on the front lines. Although they were stationed in the fortress, they would not easily participate in the battle. Only in this kind of sudden crisis would the Blood Eagle Camp participate in the battle with the marshal's order. "We're also going." Gu Qianqiu blew a flute. Several dozen Griffin Knights were gathered in front of the palace. Dongfang Zhan had already activated the Blood Eagle Camp at this time. Several hundred blood-clothed generals of the Dongfang family were riding blood eagles as they charged out of the fortress. Chu Tian, Gu Qianqiu, and Meng Qingwu rode on a griffin and used the king's command to order the remaining several dozen royal knights to cooperate with the Blood Eagle Camp, heading in the direction of the Battle Dragon Fortress. Whether it was the griffin or the Blood Eagle, they were all very fast. Especially when they charged at full speed, they didn't even need half an hour to cross the long distance, arriving at the chaotic Battle Dragon Fortress. The Battle Dragon Fortress was already in chaos. The Battle Dragon army had rebelled and there were many war hounds experts hidden in the Battle Dragon army. This sudden eruption caught the Southern Summer Army off guard. The good thing was that the Battle Dragon army only rebelled against the Earth Dragon army under Wang Tianlong. The other several tens of thousands of normal soldiers did not rebel. Adding in the fact that the Battle Dragon Fortress was not completely guarded by the Battle Dragon army, there were also high-level generals from other factions. Although the situation was very dangerous, it was not to the point of collapse. "Crazy? Are you crazy?" A Battle Dragon army vice-general was covered in blood with several wounds, leading several hundred personal soldiers in a desperate resistance. "I don't believe the young commander would betray the Southern Summer Country." Wang Tu held a spear in his hand as he led the Earth Dragon cavalry and the War Hounds experts to surround them. Wang Tu shouted with a cold smile, "Wang Lai. Whether or not my clan can regain the status of the royal family will all depend on this battle. The young commander did not tell you because he knew you were a stubborn person. I never thought that you would still obstruct the royal family's plans like this. If you continue to stubbornly resist, don't blame this general's spear for not being polite." "Royal family?" Wang Tu broke out in laughter. "If the royal family needs to bow down to the war hounds, what use is the royal family's status? Could it be you want to become the war hound slaves? The war hounds are our enemies. Betraying the Southern Summer Country and betraying humanity, you are worse than dogs and pigs. We would rather die than submit." "All right, you're seeking death." Wang Tu flew into a rage. "Kill!" The Earth Dragon army charged forward and this general named Wang Lai was instantly injured in several places. His personal soldiers were all killed in battle. A vice-general of the Battle Dragon army slashed out with his blade. Wang Lai gave a pitiful cry as one of his arms was cut off. Wang Tu gave a disdainful sneer. This is the result of not listening. Kill him for me. Traitor. A terrifying roar came from the battle path as several hundred bloodhawks charged out like a whirlwind. The battle dragon army was caught off guard and several dozen of them were instantly killed. Wang Tu was shocked and angry. Bloodhawk camp? Why did they come this quickly? The Earth Dragon army was the Wang family's most important army, having a total of 2,000 people. They had already lost quite a bit in the battle, and now that the Bloodhawk camp had joined the battle, another group of Earth Dragons had been killed. How could Wang Tu not be angry? What does the Bloodhawk camp count for? Would the Wang family's Earth Dragon cavalry be afraid of you? Wang Tu did not even have time to curse before he saw a white-haired old general leading the Bloodhawk camp. He was holding a giant sword as he stood on the back of a Bloodhawk, charging at Wang Tu's day. It's Dongfang Zhan? Wang Tu quickly raised his spear to block it. Die for me. Dongfang Zhan's sword and spearhead were fiercely cut in half. Dongfang Zhan had been a veteran of the battlefield for several decades, killing countless people and even meeting true spirit realm experts. His strength was higher than any marquis. It was not something Wang Tu in the 9th awakened soul layer could block. When Wang Lai saw Dongfang Zhan appear, he let out a sigh of relief. This general is ashamed. I couldn't block them. I asked the marshal to protect the frontline fortress. My southern summer and the warhounds are irreconcilable. We can't even give up an inch of land. After saying this, he fell into the sea of corpses. This Wang family general had fought until now, but he finally died from his heavy injuries. Chapter 323. Dongfang Zhan's eyes popped out in anger. If it wasn't for the fact that there were righteous and selfless generals in the army, perhaps the battle dragon fortress would have already fallen. If this place was broken through, the entire frontline defense line would collapse. General, please be assured. Dongfang Zhan took off his cloak and placed it over Wang Lai's body. He gave him a solemn military salute. This old soldier swears to live and die with the frontline soldiers, to live and die with the frontline defense. After saying this, he kicked away Wang Tu's broken corpse and threw out Wang Lai's spear. The spear spun at high speed as it shot out. It was as if it was piercing through a layer of paper. It pierced through the chest armor and nailed the corpse to the wall. In the end, the huge force tore it apart, and the broken pieces of flesh bloomed like flowers. This is the fate of a traitor. Dongfang Zhan pulled out the large sword, stabbed into the ground, and spirit energy was poured into the sword. The sword glow instantly soared into the sky, and that cold aura filled people with fear. This over 100-year-old white-haired general was like an enraged lion at this moment as he angrily roared, "For Southern Summer, for the human race, kill the traitors and sweep away the warhounds. As long as we have a breath left, we will not stop fighting. Kill the traitors and sweep away the warhounds. Kill the traitors and sweep away the warhounds." Dozens of Griffin Knights, 500 top experts of Blood Eagle Camp, and tens of thousands of wounded soldiers of Battle Dragon Fortress were all gathered together. Their blood was stirred up by this old general, and they swore to live and die with the frontline army. This kind of scene made Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu slightly moved. Southern Xia having a good general like Dongfang Zhan was truly the fortune of Southern Xia. "Young miss, let's go as well. Your injuries are too heavy, don't fight anymore." Meng Qingwu knew that Chu Tian's situation was very serious and only Chu Tian could hold on until now. If it was a normal person, they would have already fainted. Although the power Chu Tian used was strong, the side effects were very large. If he was injured now, the consequences would be hard to predict. Chu Tian pulled out his ice-cold blade. "Young miss, your words aren't right. I am still the Southern Summer ruler's subordinate. Although it was forcefully conferred by that fellow Southern Summer king, since I am the ruler of the Southern Summer country, I should put in some effort, don't you think so?" What else could Meng Qingwu say? Chu Tian had inexplicably become the country-guarding ruler. This ruler title was even more famous than the calm martial ruler. Chu Tian was a person who pursued freedom, so he would not easily accept responsibility. But now that the heavy responsibility had been pushed onto him, Chu Tian was not a coward who would retreat. Dong Fangzhan and Gu Qianxiu, these old men over 100 years old, were charging forward, so what reason did Chu Tian have to retreat? We'll go together. Ha, young miss, that's right. We'll kill him to our heart's content. After Dong Fangzhan killed Wang Tu, the Earth Dragon cavalry quickly retreated. Their task was not to fight the frontline marshal, but rather to open the pass and let the Warhound's army in. When Dong Fangzhan's troops arrived, it meant that there wasn't much time left. Dong Fangzhan would not let the traitors go. Breaking through the Battle Dragon fortress from the inside was the only path of survival for the rebel army. They were very clear on this point, so they were prepared to forcefully break through the pass at any cost. Don't give them a chance. Surround and kill them for me. Dong Fangzhan was very experienced on the battlefield. Although he had just arrived at the Battle Dragon fortress that was in a mess, he still managed to gather the several tens of thousands of elite soldiers in a short period of time. A portion was sent to the walls and a portion was personally leading the troops to suppress the rebellion. The Wang family's Battle Dragon cavalry did not have a chance because the pass was being guarded. Even with the Earth Dragon cavalry's strength, they could not break through in a short period of time. Not to mention that Dong Fangzhan was leading an aggressive army to kill them from behind. That hateful Eastern old man. You think the Battle Dragon army is afraid of you? We'll go all out against him. A few deputy generals gave the order, and the Earth Dragon cavalry turned around. The Earth Dragon cavalry was clad in superior black armor, holding a 3-meter-long custom-made lance in their hands. Their eyes were blood red, and they were crazily shouting to kill. At this moment, the plump and sturdy Earth Dragons were stimulated, and they burst out with a powerful force. The spikes and sharp blades embedded in the Earth Dragon's armor would become the Grim Reaper's harvesting weapons. Cavalry had the advantage over infantry. Not to mention the heavy armored Earth Dragon cavalry. These Earth Dragon cavalry were all at the second, and even third awakened soul layer. Even a small team leader was an illustrious soul realm expert. Their battle strength was not inferior to the Dongfang family's Blood Hawk camp, and they would not lose to the Royal Palace's Royal Knights. The Earth Dragons' mouths were already releasing an incomparably hot energy. The Earth Dragons could release high-temperature flames, and although it could not compare to a true dragon's breath, it could still melt steel. Even an awakened soul cultivator might not be able to block it. The space here was not wide, so Dong Fangzhan's side would suffer heavy losses. Dong Fangzhan loudly shouted, "Blood Hawk camp, cover!" The Blood Hawk cavalry's low-flying nimble figures were not something the heavy Earth Dragon cavalry could block. The Blood Hawk cavalry did not directly attack the thick-skinned Earth Dragons. Rather, they launched a sneak attack on the Earth Dragon cavalry. A single wave of killing would kill an entire row of Earth Dragon cavalry. Once the Earth Dragons lost control of the cavalry, they would immediately fall into chaos. At this time, Dong Fangzhan took the lead and surrounded the powerful Earth Dragon mounts. Not long later, the Earth Dragon cavalry had lost 200 people, which made the Wang family vice-generals clench their teeth in anger. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu did not have the strength to fight in close combat, but they could ride the griffins and attack from the air with the Blood Hawk camp. Meng Qingwu picked up a source energy submachine gun and wildly fired at the Earth Dragon cavalry from 100 meters away. Normal source energy submachine guns were weaker, but their main advantage was their high rate of fire. This was Chu Tian's custom-made version, and each bullet had been strengthened. Not only were they not weaker than normal pistols, they were actually a bit stronger. It could easily pierce through the protective spirit energy of a cultivator under the 4th awakened soul layer, and even a 4th awakened soul layer cultivator wouldn't be able to take 2 more shots. Meng Qingwu swept out with the gun. At least 4-5 Earth Dragon cavalry were shot down. At this time, Chu Tian controlled the griffins to dive down and used its claws to tear them apart. The two of them worked together to kill several dozen griffins. Damn. If we keep fighting like this, we'll lose for sure. The vice-generals saw this and knew that their only chance of winning was to open the fort with their lives on the line. They decided to ignore Dong Fangzhan's attack and began a crazy suicidal attack. They had to open the fort. How could Dongfangzhan let them succeed? This white-haired old general charged into the Earth Dragon Cavalry formation and cut down 20 Earth Dragon Cavalry in one go, finally killing a 9th awakened Soul Layer vice-general. Although he paid the price of 7-8 wounds, he became fiercer and fiercer as he fought. He was like a beast in a desperate situation. This madness was not something these people could endure. This old madman. Does he want to die with us? The Earth Dragon Cavalry were all shocked by Dongfangzhan's attitude of sacrificing 800 to injure 3,000 enemies. Their momentum became weaker and their numbers decreased. Finally, with the help of the Blood Hawk camp, the entire Earth Dragon Cavalry had been cleaned up. Dongfangzhan continued to clean up, killing all the Warhounds experts that had infiltrated in. Although the Battle Dragon Fortress was temporarily saved, after several rounds of internal strife, they had suffered heavy losses and were on the verge of collapse. The battle had already been going on for 2 hours. Inside and outside, blood flowed like a river and both sides had countless casualties. Hold on. The Warhound's army can't hold on any longer. Dongfangzhan's body was covered in blood and he was injured in several places, but he was still waving his large sword that was filled with holes as he shouted, as if his body was not his. Over half of the 500 Blood Hawk camp generals had died. This was the Dongfang family's trump card. Dongfangzhan's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, but if they could protect the frontline fortress, it was not a pity no matter what price they had to pay. As long as the frontline fortress was not broken, Southern Xia would have the capital to counterattack. Judging from the current situation, victory was already in sight. Finally, the Warhounds blew the horn to retreat. This large army left behind over 100,000 corpses and slowly retreated like a tide. The Southern Summer soldiers that had been fighting for several hours all shouted out in excitement. The Warhounds had attacked for a long time, so they were finally retreating? The Warhounds' army has retreated. The Warhounds' army has finally retreated. Southern Xia has won. Long live Southern Xia. Long live the Marshal. The Warhounds' army was very chaotic. After the horn to retreat was blown, the entire army quickly retreated, falling into chaos. Banners were thrown to the ground and armor were thrown away. This scene could be described as very embarrassing. In this situation, it was almost impossible for them to launch a second wave of attacks. At this time, the cavalry that Dongfangzhan had arranged ahead of time moved out. This was definitely a surprise attack. The Warhounds never would have thought that after the Southern Summer Army had experienced such a bloody battle, they would still send troops to chase after them. The two cavalry groups did not have many people, with each group only having 40–50,000 people. However, using troops did not depend on how many there were, it depended on using them at the right time. When the cavalry charged out of the pass, they charged through the prairie like lightning. They were like two sharp knives stabbing into the chaotic Warhounds' army, wildly harvesting them like a harvesting machine. The Warhounds were currently retreating. Their attack on the city had failed, so they were quickly running away. Dodging the rain of arrows from the watchtowers, they were already in a very sorry state. Their morale had dropped to a freezing point, so they only cared about running for their lives. How could they resist? This was a one-sided slaughter. In just a short while, they had killed at least 10,000 Warhound soldiers. Wherever they went, there was a large pile of bloody corpses. Chu Tian couldn't help giving a praise. Beautifully done. The old general was truly an experienced general. This cavalry was used at the right time. The Warhounds' failure in attacking the city was already a large setback. If they could kill 50–80,000 people while retreating, it would be like sprinkling salt on the Warhounds' wounds, making them unable to think of attacking the city a second time. This battle would be over and the Warhounds would return to the prairies with their tails between their legs. Southern Xia had paid quite a large price, but the main thing was the damage to the fortress. It would only take a year to repair it and the main force of the Southern Summer Army was still there. If it wasn't for the Southern Summer King falling, this would have been a very beautiful battle. However, when everyone was thinking this, a strange change occurred that no one expected. There was a deep drum sound coming from the center of the battlefield. This kind of drum sound had never been heard before. Although it was deep, it was incomparably deep, like it was coming from the earth. The battle intent contained within was completely different from the Warhound's army's retreat. Dongfang Zhan's expression instantly changed. Retreat! Retreat! Dongfang Zhan had already left the command platform. He could not pass down his orders in this place. In just a short few seconds, there was a shocking change on the battlefield. Those different shapes and colors, as well as the messy flags, all of them suddenly disappeared. The messy horn war drums were also extinguished at this moment. In the center of the Warhound's army, a large black flag suddenly appeared. This was an orderly standing army that had not moved since the beginning of the battle. They had always been hidden in the center of the Warhound's army, but now that they had suddenly appeared, it was like a dangerous reef appearing in the middle of the ocean. This is bad. The Warhounds were still holding back. They had not used their full strength, and even their retreat was just an act. The enemy commanders seemed to understand Dongfang Zhan's style very well, even guessing how Dongfang Zhan would deploy his troops. Dongfang Zhan did not know anything about the other side, and he did not believe that there would be such a cunning leader among the Warhounds. Who was the commander of this army? Where did this orderly army come from? The bad premonition in Dongfang Zhan's heart was becoming stronger and stronger. An unimaginable change had occurred in the Warhound's plains, but Southern Xia had not gathered any information about it at all. Fong King, Fong King, Fong King. The Warhound's army began to shout out in unison. This was a title that represented supreme power and status in the Warhound's plains. Each Warhound's soldier had a fanatical look on their faces, just like they were welcoming their emperor. Chapter 324. The messy flags of the Warhound's army disappeared at the same time, and a large amount of black flags appeared in the center of the army. They looked very neat, being exactly the same. It was like a dark current was surging forward, causing the soldiers in front of them to retreat. The Southern Xia cavalry did not see the flags, but from the shouts of the surrounding Warhounds, they could feel that something was wrong. Only they had already charged out, so it was too late for them to retreat now. The Warhound's kingdom's flag. When Dongfang Zhan saw the other side's flag, his eyes popped out and his face turned pale. This is the Fong King army. A new Fong King has appeared on the Warhound's plains. Chu Tian was already not unfamiliar with the Fong King title. The Warhounds were mostly wolf and dog races, so they worshipped the sharp teeth of wild beasts. So on the Warhound's plains, teeth were the totem of most tribes, as well as a symbol of strength and status. It was because of this that the Warhounds called the person with the highest status the Fong King. This was translated in the spirit beast language, which meant the king of a human kingdom. There was no Fong King ruling. The Warhound's plains were like scattered sand. Even the alliance did not pose a threat. Southern Xia could easily stir up conflict and make their alliance collapse in the blink of an eye. But once the Fong King was born, the Warhound's plains would once again become the Warhound's kingdom. This meant that Southern Xia would face a large calamity. After the last Fong King fell, the Warhound's plains had not had a new Fong King appear for over 100 years. The strength of the major tribes was about the same, and they were fighting over the Fong King. In just a few short months, the Warhound's plains had suddenly given birth to a Fong King. There was only one possibility. This generation's Fong King had an overwhelming strength, forcing all the tribes to obey him. Was the previous attack just the prelude? The Fong King's army had moved, but the true battle had just begun? This is bad. It's dangerous. Dongfang Zhan wanted to call back his cavalry, but it was already too late. When the Warhound's army quickly separated, a fierce black army appeared from the disorderly army. This was an army of around 100,000 people, all wearing black battle wolves, all wearing Warhound's wolf cavalry, and all wielding war horses and large blades. Weapons, equipment, and mounts, the 100,000 Warhound's wolf cavalry were the same. Every wolf rider had a black flag on their back. The design of the flag was impressively the terrifying fangs of wild beasts. This army was silent, but they emitted an aura of death, causing a terrifying murderous aura to permeate the entire battlefield. The leader of the wolf cavalry was especially eye-catching. This person was covered in dark golden scale armor, and his burly body was about 2.5 meters tall. His face was full of hideous scars, and one of them was a sword fan, which had almost cut his scalp in half. The wound was full of stitches. He held a huge golden drum, which seemed to contain unimaginable power. When he waved it casually, even the air was distorted. The most eye-catching part is, this warhound's expert was riding a three-headed demon wolf. The three-headed demon wolf's entire body was pitch black and hairless. Its skin was rock-like, as if there were flames flowing within its body. This was a level 3 magical beast that would make one's hair stand on end. It was said that it possessed the bloodline of the prehistoric ferocious beast, the three-headed hellhound. As such, it possessed great strength. Fong King! Fong King! Fong King! The warhounds began to wildly shout. When the two Southern Summer Cavalry charged over, they already saw the warhounds' wolf cavalry. The aura of the three-headed demon wolf made the war horses neigh in unease, and the orderly charging formation fell into chaos. Fong King? He's the Fong King? A cavalry general knew that once a large amount of cavalry began their charge, it was impossible to retreat midway. This was because the cavalry was too large and orders could not be passed on, so retreating would only result in defeat. Since it was like this, why not risk it all? Charge? Kill the bandit leader. No matter how strong the Fong King was, could he block the charge of over 10,000 cavalry? With this wave of cavalry charging at high speeds, even a true spirit expert would die. The Fong King slowly raised the golden drum in his hand, and the several dozen meter range was covered in energy, forming a strong energy field. When the Fong King raised his weapon high up, a small bolt of lightning shot into the sky. Following that, a large dark cloud appeared above the Fong King's head. Purple Gold Thunder God's drum, release your anger. When the Southern Summer Cavalry charged over, large amounts of lightning appeared in the sky and countless bolts of lightning fell down like rain. Whether it was the cavalry or the war horses, as long as they were hit by the lightning, they would be charred black and die on the spot. The Fong King's casual attack had knocked down at least 200 Southern Summer elite cavalry. The other Southern Summer Cavalry all revealed looks of shock. This person's strength far surpassed their imagination. This was not good for them. What is Malum doing? The Fong King did not place the Southern Summer Cavalry in his eyes at all as he stared at the fortress in front of him. Since you want me to personally make a move. This new Fong King raised the majestic purple gold drum high up, and his cold voice echoed through the world. Don't leave a single one alive, kill them all. The war drums rumbled. The silent 100,000 demon wolf cavalry received this order, and they suddenly charged forward. Their speed was twice as fast as the Southern Summer Cavalry. A blue wave and a black wave collided, and the black wave seemed to be able to destroy everything, instantly submerging the Southern Xia elite cavalry. This battle could not be fought. The mounts of the Southern Xia cavalry were storm horses, and these horses were only level 1 demon beasts. The mounts of the Warhound's kingdom were demon wolves, and these demon wolves were level 2 demon beasts. These demon wolves were at least in the first awakened soul layer. This also meant that even if they didn't consider the strength of the wolf cavalry, the Southern Summer Cavalry was facing an army of 100,000 awakened soul cultivators. With this kind of large number and this kind of terrifying scale, they had an overwhelming advantage. The demon wolves had many abilities, like bursting forward, using spirit energy to defend, or spitting out demon flames. If it was just one, it would not be considered strong, but with 100,000 of them, it was an incomparably terrifying strength. The Warhound's cavalry were mostly in the first or second awakened soul layer. This army could be considered an elite army even in the large kingdoms of the continent. The elite army of a small country like Southern Xia was not even on the same level, so it was a one-sided slaughter. Countless Southern Summer Cavalry were pounced on by the wolves, bitten to death, and torn to shreds. The Fong King charged into the crowd with the flashing purple gold drum in his hand. Wherever the golden drum went, whether it was men or horses, they were all burnt to ashes. It was like there was no one there, no one could stop him at all. Fong King! Fong King! When the Warhound's army saw the terrifying battle strength of the Fong King's army, their morale was raised and they began to wildly counterattack the Southern Summer Cavalry. 100,000 cavalry. This was the entire cavalry of the Great Wall Army. They were being wildly slaughtered by the Warhounds right in front of Dongfang Zhan's eyes. The hearts of the Southern Xia army fell to the bottom and they fell apart. They had thought that they had won a moment ago, but they had been completely beaten black and blue by the reality in front of them. Facing this kind of crazy and powerful army, everyone felt fear in their hearts. Kill all the humans. The Demon Wolf Cavalry tore through the Southern Summer Cavalry like a giant black sword, stabbing straight at the frontline fortress. The Southern Xia soldiers woke up like they were in a dream, and the various fortress commanders began to busy themselves. Prepare to fight. We have to stop them outside the walls. At this time, the Fong King raised the purple gold thunder god's drum in his hand. Please bestow me strength. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and landed on the purple gold drum. Kibeo raised his weapon and threw it forward, and the berserk power quickly bombarded the city gate, which had been damaged by the dazzling giant monster. In an instant, a massive hole appeared in the city gate. The Southern Xia defenders were sent flying with pitiful cries. Too terrifying. The power of this weapon was simply unheard of. The Fong King's strength was enough to make people feel fear. When the Fong King broke through the city gates, the Demon Wolf Cavalry jumped over the deep and wide moat and charged into the fortress through the gap. The Southern Xia generals all shouted out in fear. The Western Front has been lost, the Western Front has been lost. Requesting reinforcements, requesting quick reinforcements. The entire fortress was filled with pitiful cries. In front of this terrifying army, the frontline defense that Southern Xia was so proud of was like a piece of paper that couldn't withstand a single blow. Dongfang Zhan angrily clenched his fist. This kind of army can't be created in a day. If the Warhound Plains had this kind of army, how could I not know about it? Where the hell did they come from? Gu Qianxiu persuaded Dongfang Zhan, Marshal, the frontline fortress can't be defended, we should immediately retreat to Imperial City. You guys leave immediately. Dongfang Zhan also knew that the moment the Fong King broke through the city gates, the frontline defense would be lost. You guys go back and warn Imperial City to immediately make preparations. Once the frontline defense is broken, the next one to be attacked will be Imperial City. Once Imperial City falls, Southern Xia will not be able to protect itself. Meng Qingwu asked, "What about you, old Marshal?" This old soldier has guarded the front lines for 50 years. Dongfang Zhan raised his spear and faced the charging wolf cavalry. We will fight to the last moment. Don't say any more. Southern Xia needs you. Quickly leave. The frontline fortress could not withstand another wave of attacks. Whether they were willing or not, they had to accept this result. Imperial City did not know what was happening here, so they had to bring this news back to Imperial City. Otherwise, how could Imperial City defend against this terrifying army? Chu Tian advised, the calm martial ruler is out and Imperial City needs an experienced general. I think the old general should retreat together. The Dongfang family has countless talented generals and the Nangong family has many generals. Why do we need an old soldier? Dongfang Zhan seemed like he had already made his decision. You guys don't need to say any more. This old soldier has guarded the front lines for 50 years and has already disregarded life and death. My blood and my flesh have already fused with the Southern Xia country's wall. I will fight to the end for it. Chu Tian knit his brows, but Gu Qianxiu stood up. Country guarding ruler, Chairman Meng, now that things have reached this point, please respect the old general. Southern Xia still needs you. That's right. It was impossible for a person like Dongfang Zhan to retreat. Even if he knew that he would die if he stayed, for glory, for his faith, and for his promise, he would fight to the last second. Gu Qianxiu gathered the remaining griffin riders and gave a griffin to Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu. Let's go. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu cupped their hands to Dongfang Zhan. Then they rode the griffin and followed Gu Qianxiu, leaving the frontline fortress. They had to quickly bring this news back to Imperial City, otherwise Imperial City would be in danger. At this time, The frontline fortress was filled with pitiful cries. The Southern Summer Army had suffered heavy casualties. They had already suffered heavy losses, and now the Warhound's Demon Wolf cavalry had launched a second wave of attacks. In the end, they used a quarter of an hour to break through the city gates. The Demon Wolf army swarmed in and began a life-and-death battle with the exhausted Southern Summer Border Army. The frontline fortress still had close to 400,000 soldiers, having a large advantage in terms of numbers. However, these soldiers were very scattered and they were all very tired. At least half of their spirit energy had been consumed, so they could not gather a strong battle strength at this time. So, this battle was basically a one-sided slaughter. One Southern Summer soldier after another fell under the butcher's blade. Mountains of corpses and seas of blood, it could be called hell on earth. Dongfang Zhan gathered tens of thousands of elites in a short period of time and launched a suicidal attack on the Warhound's cavalry. Finally, they managed to kill over 3,000 Demon Wolf cavalry, with a casualty ratio of 10-1. To Dongfang Zhan, this was enough to make him feel proud. After all, this was a strong army that a small country could not resist. The 30,000 elites by Dongfang Zhan's side had all died, and there were only a few personal soldiers still fighting in a bloody battle. Southern Xia will never fall. Dongfang Zhan was covered in several wounds, with 4 arrows and a spear piercing his abdomen, but he still cut down 7 Demon Wolf cavalry, finally standing on top of a mountain of corpses. His white hair danced in the wind and he was surrounded by Demon Wolf cavalry, with the Fang King riding a 3-headed demon wolf at the very front. Dongfang Zhan gave 3 wild laughs before suddenly throwing out his spear, piercing through another 2 Demon Wolf cavalry. But this spear was caught by a large hand. A wolf man riding a 3-headed demon wolf with a purple gold drum in his hand walked out. A pair of dark and cruel eyes stared right at Dongfang Zhan. Even in this situation, you still caused quite a bit of damage to my army. You are truly worthy of being one of the Southern Summer generals. The number 1 general in the Southern Summer country belongs to the calm martial ruler. What does this old soldier count for? Dongfang Zhan did not need to ask to know the other side's identity. If you weren't afraid of the calm martial ruler, why would you lead him away? If the calm martial ruler was in the imperial region, the result wouldn't be like this. It's too late to say anything now. You've lost, so surrender. The Fang King coldly said, Southern Xia will become a vassal of my Warhound's kingdom. As long as you surrender and swear loyalty to me, you will still be a famous general of the Southern Summer country. Dongfang Zhan's spirit energy had already been used up and he could no longer fight with this kind of serious injury. He did not even bother replying to the Fang King's words and directly pulled out the sword at his waist. There was a blood glow that came out. Dongfang Zhan stood in the ruins of the fortress. His body was covered in wounds and his white hair fluttered in the wind, but he was like a giant angrily looking north. Dongfang Zhan had killed himself. The frontline fortress had completely fallen. Chapter 325. The demonic wolf cavalry hated Dongfang Zhan, who didn't fall even after dying. This fellow had killed many Warhound's warriors, and even in the situation just now, he had caused 3,000-4,000 demonic wolf cavalry casualties. Tear it to pieces. The demonic wolf cavalry wanted to tear Dongfang Zhan's corpse to pieces to vent their anger. Enough, stop. The Fang King coldly shouted, the Warhounds respect true warriors and a warrior needs to be treated like a warrior, even if he is our enemy. Take his corpse and preserve it. After the battle is over, we will bury him in the Southern Summer country's soil. The Fang King held the highest position in the Warhound's tribe and no one dared to disobey his words. The entire battlefield was still calm and the Southern Xia frontline army was already in shambles. Tens of thousands of people had already abandoned their defenses and fled, with their defeat already being irreversible. The Warhounds did not leave any prisoners. Out of the 600,000 soldiers in the Great Wall, around 400,000-500,000 had died and the rest had already fled. The Warhounds' army had lost 200,000-300,000 people, but most of them were just random soldiers. The demonic wolf cavalry's main force was still intact. First, send out the pursuing troops to capture the Southern Xia soldiers. The Fong king did not want to let a single southern Xia soldier go. Everyone else, start cleaning up the battlefield. Quickly adjust yourselves and continue the attack. The southern Xia people had received news of victory several days ago, but they never would have thought that this kind of nightmare would happen in a single night. After the frontline fortress was broken, Imperial City no longer had any barriers. With this terrifying army marching down, they could directly launch an attack on the unprepared royal city. Imperial City's 200,000 cavalry had been sent to Tsang State, so it was impossible for them to return in a few days. As for the remaining 500,000 soldiers in Imperial City, although there were over 1,000 Griffin Knights and the elites of the three great families, if they were to face the sudden attack of the Warhound's army, it would be hard for them to resist. The Fong king sent out several thousand soldiers to chase after them and then began to organize the army. This battle had consumed quite a bit of energy, so they could not directly attack Imperial City for now. But there was enough time. Nothing could change in these 2 days. The calm martial ruler and the 200,000 cavalry would not return, so the Fong king was not afraid of the southern summer country launching a sneak attack. In 5 days or 10 days, once the Fong king attacked Imperial City, it would be useless even if the calm martial ruler and the 400,000 cavalry from Tsang State returned. Big brother. Malim jumped over the ruins with Wang Tianlong, landing in front of the Fong king like two phantoms. Malim's armor was broken and he seemed to be heavily injured. Malim, your performance really disappoints me. The Fong king seemed to be filled with anger. I told you to attack the stronghold from the inside, but you didn't complete this task. Because of your failure, the Warhound's army has lost at least 100,000 soldiers and even lost 3,000 demon wolf cavalry. Malim had a look of shame. The Southern Summer King tried to take me down with him before he died. Although I was lucky enough to escape, I was still quite injured. Because I was recovering, I couldn't finish the mission in time, so I asked Big Brother to punish me. The Fong King frowned. I don't need a reason, I want results. Since you failed the mission, you should be punished. Malim steeled his heart and pulled out the black blade, chopping down on his left arm. Wang Tianlong turned pale with fright. Just one mistake, and he had to break his arm as punishment? Ding. A golden drum blocked the black blade. The Fong King coldly said, "You killing the Southern Summer King is considered a great merit, so this mistake will be recorded. The battle is not over yet and your left arm is still useful, so it won't be too late to cut it off after the battle." Where is Chu Tian? Why don't we see his corpse? Wang Tianlong said, "This person can fight against 1,000,000 soldiers. If we let him go, there will be endless troubles in the future." The Fong King knit his brows. What do you mean? Malim explained, this is a human youth. Although he doesn't have any fame, he seems to have an extraordinary strength. Since it's like this, I'll give you a chance to atone for your crimes. The Fong King whistled and a giant blue bird appeared above everyone. This is a thunder eagle beast. Its speed is twice that of a human griffin. You will ride this beast and chase after him. Even if you can't catch him, you can't let him live. Malim waved his hand at Wang Tianlong and the people beside him. You all come with me. Malim rode the thunder eagle beast and the others rode vultures. They set off from the frontline fortress and began to chase after Chu Tian's group. These flying demon beasts were very fast and the warhounds were good at tracking, so it was easy to find their aura, so it was not hard to catch up to them. Malim felt the other side's aura after chasing for an hour, but the other side seemed to have sensed that they were being chased. The groups suddenly scattered and went in different directions. Their auras are scattered, we should also scatter. Malim ordered the others, I'll go catch Chu Tian and you chase the rest. Understood. Malim and the others spread out in pursuit. Several minutes ago, Chu Tian, Gu Qianqiu, Meng Qingwu, and several dozen Griffin Knights were heading in the direction of Imperial City. The frontline fortress had suffered a crushing defeat in southern Xia, but Imperial City had not fallen yet, so there was still hope for a comeback. The little fox had been observing the divine eye for a while, but it suddenly anxiously gestured to Chu Tian. We're in trouble. The warhounds have sent at least several thousand pursuers and there are several that have already caught up to us. Chu Tian said to the others. They are very fast and we are too big of a target, it will be hard for us to escape. We can only split up and try our luck like this. In short, we have to report back to Imperial City as soon as possible. Gu Qianxiu said through gritted teeth. They could only do this. I'll be in a group with the young miss, you guys take care. Gu Qianxiu was heavily injured, so even if he followed Chu Tian, he might not be able to protect him. It was better to split up and make it hard for the warhounds to lock onto him. Scatter! Everyone scattered at the same time. They all began to scatter by themselves. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu moved together. After all, the two of them were riding on a griffin. Meng Qingwu's cultivation was not high and Chu Tian had overdrawn his strength, so they could take care of each other. In the end, the two of them didn't go far. Gee! The little fox anxiously called out. It was warning Chu Tian that the first group of pursuers had already locked onto the two of them. Meng Qingwu found a large black dot in the sky, which was a group of warhounds riding vultures. There were many of them, around 20 of them, and they were all elites of the warhounds tribe, with most of them being illustrious Soul Realm experts. This was the first group of pursuers sent by the Fong King. They had locked onto Chu Tian earlier than Malim, so they met first. Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The Warhounds tribe had caught up. The Warhounds tribe leader loudly shouted, "Kill them! It's just a few small fish, young miss, there's no need to panic." Chu Tian endured the tearing pain of his body and took out a source energy submachine gun from his gourd. He put in a normal magazine and took out the Netherworld sword from his back. "Stand behind me. It will be very bumpy later, so you have to hold on tight." Meng Qingwu's heart was filled with bitterness. This fellow was clearly an arrow at the end of its flight, but he still wanted to protect her. Meng Qingwu was facing this life and death situation, but she couldn't do anything. She felt very uneasy and guilty in her heart. "Young miss, we are grasshoppers on the same rope, so you don't need to think too much. You and I are destined to cross this calamity together, so no one should think about leaving first. But to be honest, I am very honored." Meng Qingwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, what are you honored for? Because although I wasn't born on the same day as the young miss, I could die on the same day as the young miss. Look, our fates are linked together. This is truly a match made in heaven. Hey, who wants to die together with you? Chu Tian he was still in the mood to joke around at this time. But being like this by Chu Tian, Meng Qingwu felt the uneasiness in her heart lessen by a lot. "They're here." The Warhounds' air cavalry quickly charged forward and the Warhound soldiers began to shoot arrows. A large wave of arrows rained down on the two of them, and there were just too many of them. It was not hard for Chu Tian to protect himself and he could protect the young miss, but the problem was that most of the arrows were aimed at the griffin. The griffin was this big, so how could it defend every position? Chu Tian used his divine sense to lock onto the arrows and used the Netherworld sword to send out sword chi to cut down the arrows, accurately protecting the griffin. Once the griffin was killed, the two of them would not have a means of transportation. When would they be able to reach Imperial City? Chu Tian did not have any spirit energy and now he had to protect the mount with all these Warhounds experts. He was stretched thin. The Warhounds' air cavalry captain found a flaw, and while Chu Tian was busy protecting the griffin, he suddenly drew his bow and shot an incomparably strong arrow at Chu Tian's heart. This is bad. Chu Tian's divine sense could see this attack, but this person's archery skills were very high. Chu Tian could not attend to this, and if he dodged the arrow, the griffin would be killed. If he did not dodge the arrow, this arrow would be very dangerous. It was at this critical moment. Meng Qingwu suddenly jumped out and blocked the arrow for Chu Tian. That arrow filled with spirit energy fell onto Meng Qingwu's right leg and the wild energy pierced through the starlight immortal body, deeply stabbing into Meng Qingwu's thigh. Meng Qingwu's eyes turned black and she almost fell off the griffin's back. "Young miss." Chu Tian quickly grabbed Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu loudly shouted, "Be careful." The Warhound's commander took this chance to charge forward with his spear. That spear glow was filled with spirit energy, so this person was at least a peak 6th awakened soul layer expert. If it was a fair fight, Chu Tian would not have placed him in his eyes, but he did not have the strength to do so. But that did not mean that Chu Tian was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chu Tian raised the submachine gun in his left hand and pulled the trigger, releasing a large amount of light bullets into the sky. The warhounds had never seen source energy weapons before, and the several light bullets all hit their targets. Some hit the vultures and some hit the warhounds' experts, but the high temperature was enough to melt steel. The vultures were instantly fatally injured, and the warhound's captain gave a pitiful cry as he fell off his mount. Chu Tian shot at the other warhounds pursuing him. With several pitiful cries, another 2 vultures fell from several hundred meters in the air. Several warhound soldiers put down their bows and pulled out their close combat weapons to surround him without any fear of death. Chu Tian's source energy submachine gun had run out of energy and he did not have time to reload, so he could only send out a sword chi to push back 2 of them. The other one had already approached the griffin and stabbed his spear into the griffin's abdomen, creating a terrifying wound. Ayo! The griffin gave a pitiful cry as it lost its balance. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu were almost thrown out. Damn! Meng Qingwu took Chu Tian's submachine gun and reloaded it. That terrifying source energy bullet easily shattered their armor and instantly melted several warhound soldiers with large holes. Young miss, good shot. There were still several dozen warhounds airborne cavalry, but there were too many of them. With their close range and long range attacks, not to mention that Chu Tian's strength was greatly reduced, even in a normal situation, it would be hard for him to gain an advantage in this kind of aerial battle. So, a blade quickly slashed at the griffin's neck. The injured griffin finally could not hold on any longer and its body suddenly flipped over, falling down from the sky. This is bad. The 2 of them were thrown into the air and instantly lost their center of gravity, falling down at the same time. After losing their mounts, the 2 of them could not move in the air. The warhounds' airborne cavalry charged forward, attempting to tear the 2 of them apart. Chapter 326. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu were over 300-400 meters in the air, falling down in a free fall. Their ears were filled with the sound of wind, and the ground was getting closer and closer. Falling from this height, even if one had a body as hard as steel, their internal organs would still be damaged. What was even more dangerous was that the warhound soldiers riding on the vultures did not plan on letting them go. So when the 2 of them fell, the vultures surrounded them and tried to tear them apart with their sharp claws. Scram! Chu Tian's sword chi cut open the belly of a vulture and large amounts of blood and internal organs were released. Chu Tian suddenly heard Meng Qingwu's cry of shock, and when he turned around, Meng Qingwu had already been caught by a vulture. The vulture had actually stabbed its spear at Meng Qingwu's body, but it was a good thing that this vulture soldier's cultivation was not high and its spear could not pierce through Meng Qingwu's starlight barrier. Meng Qingwu grabbed the spear and threw the soldier down. Chu Tian had no choice but to throw the netherworld sword and grab it in his hand. The treasure sword turned into a stream of light as it pierced through the vulture's body. The vulture gave a pitiful cry as it was killed. The netherworld sword released energy and the blue and white flame crows flew into the air. Even the vultures and the riders were ignited by the terrifying abyss netherworld flame. This huge ball of flame then transformed into a humanoid figure. It was impressively the image of a demon. Netherworld. Kill them. Yes, master. The demon Netherworld was an elemental being. It could fly even without wings. It was like a meteor as it charged at the vulture riders. There were 6-7 blooming flames in the sky. Chu Tian held the netherworld sword that had lost its spirit and fell down with Meng Qingwu. Put on. 2 large sounds came from a lake that was as flat as a mirror on the prairie. The 2 of them almost instantly sank to the bottom of the water. If they were ordinary people, their internal organs would have been shattered and they would have died. Chu Tian came into close contact with a rock at the bottom of the lake. The rock was smashed into pieces, but Chu Tian's head was fine. However, he felt a wave of dizziness. He quickly calmed himself down, kicked the bottom of the lake, and quickly floated up. He saw Meng Qingwu struggling in front of him. The young mistress did not seem to be very good at swimming. Moreover, there was an arrow wound on her thigh, so she could not move for a while. Chu Tian quickly swam over and wrapped his arms around Meng Qingwu's waist. The two of them emerged from the water together. Phew! Meng Qingwu and Chu Tian gasped for breath. Meng Qingwu quickly asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "My life is very tough." "Of course I'm fine. How is eldest miss? Are your injuries heavy?" In order to express his concern, Chu Tian used his hands to examine the young miss's body. When he finally touched her thigh, he used his spirit energy to break the arrow. "We need to go ashore to take care of the wound." Meng Qingwu had been taken advantage of by Chu Tian, but she was too lazy to say anything at this moment. The little fox swam over from the water and brought the netherworld sword in its mouth to Chu Tian. Chu Tian held the netherworld sword and thanked the little fox. The demon netherworld was still fighting with the warhounds in the sky. Although the battle would not end in a while, it could stop the vulture cavalry from attacking the two of them, so it was the best time for the two of them to go ashore. Chu Tian held the young Miss Soft body and held the netherworld sword in his other hand. He controlled the spirit energy in his body and suddenly kicked off in the water. It was like he had hit an engine and he quickly swam to the shore. The little fox suddenly gave a warning. There was a large amount of dead wood floating on the surface of the small lake. When one looked carefully, they were shocked to find that these were not dead wood. They were clearly giant alligators that were over 5 meters long. A small part of their bodies floated on the surface, so it looked like several dozen pieces of dead wood. Damn, these are blue-patterned alligators. These alligators were high-level 1 water-attributed demon beasts. They could display some water-attributed abilities and had the strength of an 8th to 9th body refinement layer cultivator. In his normal state, Chu Tian would not care about them, but the current Chu Tian was not only very weak, his spirit energy was almost used up and he did not have the strength to fight anymore. There were many alligators, there were at least over 100 of them. At this moment, it was enough to pose a fatal threat to the two of them. Meng Qingwu said in a panic, "What do we do? What can we do?" The two who had fallen into the water had clearly invaded the territory of these highly territorial magical beasts. Moreover, it seemed that these fellows did not have a good temper. At this moment, they were rapidly surging towards the 2 humans and 1 beast. Dark blue runes lit up on the skin of each of the crocodiles as they instilled power into the surrounding lake water from their bodies. The entire lake seemed to be boiling in an instant. Chu Tian could feel a strong water-attributed energy that wrapped around him like a giant python. The alligators wanted to bind him and make him lose his ability to resist before tearing him apart. Chu Tian's long sword swept out with a fierce sword chi, instantly breaking through the surrounding binding energy. It also cut the 2 alligators in half. Other than angering the demon beasts even more, it did not have any effect on their current situation. "This is bad. There are too many demon beasts in the water." Meng Qingwu anxiously shouted, "If you bring me along, you won't be able to leave. Don't worry about me, just leave." Meng Qingwu was in the peak 5th awakened soul layer. This kind of strength was not weak. At least in the Southern Xia army, she could be a high-level general. But Meng Qingwu did not have a battle-type source spirit, so she was not suited for most battle cultivation techniques and martial arts. In other words, other than the defensive, Starlight Immortal Body cultivation technique, she did not have any other skills. Meng Qingwu's battle strength was very weak, especially in this kind of situation. She could only drag them down. If Chu Tian brought Meng Qingwu, their chances of escaping would be even smaller. "You want to stop me with just these few beasts?" Chu Tian released his spirit energy and suddenly moved forward. He felt 1,000 gene of resistance with every inch he moved forward. After cutting down several more alligators, he continued to bring Meng Qingwu forward. The water around them began to churn even more violently as the giant alligators charged at the two of them. "Young miss, take this." Chu Tian gave the source energy submachine gun to Meng Qingwu. He and Meng Qingwu were hugging each other and Chu Tian was responsible for sweeping the front. "You cover my back." At this time, several giant crocodiles attacked Chu Tian from behind. The young miss quickly grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger. A stream of light bullets shot out and instantly created a large amount of steam on the surface of the lake. The giant crocodile's incomparably tough skin was instantly burned with a large hole and their bodies were pierced through. Too good. With the source energy submachine gun in hand, these giant alligators would not be able to get close. Meng Qingwu seemed like she had found her value and immediately fired at the surrounding giant alligators. When these high-temperature energy bullets passed through the lake, they created large amounts of steam that finally landed on the giant alligators. The source energy submachine gun's high firing speed and killing power was displayed at this time. The two of them finally escaped danger and slowly swam towards the shore. I don't have any bullets, quickly give me a magazine. Fuck, can't you use it sparingly? I don't have any left. Meng Qingwu was shocked. Then what do we do? Chu Tian took out a source energy pistol and gave it to her. We only have this left, so we'll just have to make do with it. This pistol's firing speed was too slow and there were too many demon beasts. How could they kill them all? But now that things had reached this point, they could only do this. It was a good thing that Chu Tian's weapons had been specially modified. This source energy pistol's energy bullets were enough to easily pierce through an illustrious soul realm cultivator's protective spirit energy. A single shot was enough to kill one. Only as more and more crocodiles were killed, these demon beasts became more and more angry. They became even more hysterical as they attacked the two of them. Chu Tian didn't have much spirit energy left and now he was on the verge of exhaustion. Even the Starlight Immortal body couldn't support it anymore. Once the Starlight Immortal body was broken, then Chu Tian would die without a doubt. These demon beasts could easily crush a human's weak body. I really can't move. Finally, the spirit energy in Chu Tian's body was almost completely used up. He was at least 200 meters away from the other side of the river. This was not a problem for an awakened soul cultivator, but for Chu Tian, it was the distance between life and death. Young miss, we might not be able to swim up. Chu Tian had a tired expression. Are you afraid? Meng Qingwu looked at Chu Tian's pale face and suddenly had a very moved feeling. This fellow was usually carefree, but in this critical moment he was protecting her with his life, not giving up until the last moment. If you're not afraid, then what would I be afraid of? At worst we'll just die together. Young miss, please take this and hold it tightly. Chu Tian placed a sword sheath into Meng Qingwu's hand. Without waiting for her to speak, he took the initiative to ask, I actually have a question I want to ask you. Meng Qingwu had a stunned expression as she said, What do you want to ask? Chu Tian seriously said, Ying once told me that the man the young miss likes has to be an indomitable hero or a great sage that saves the country. Do you think I'm that kind of person? What meaning is there in asking this? Of course there is a meaning. Quickly tell me, let me be a ghost that understands. Alright, you are, that's fine. But there's no chance, we're all going to die. Chu Tian revealed a satisfied smile. He suddenly thrust the netherworld sword forward, stabbing it into the sword sheath in Meng Qingwu's hand. He pushed the rest of his spirit energy in and the energy exploded in the water. That strong force directly pushed Meng Qingwu's body. Meng Qingwu was pushed by the netherworld sword and flew into the air, landing on the shore. She watched as Chu Tian used the last of his strength and slowly sank into the water in exhaustion. The surrounding giant alligators surrounded him, launching a final wave of attacks. Chu Tian. I don't belong to this place, I should be satisfied after playing for this long. Chu Tian raised his right hand to make a victory sign. You sisters should live on. When Chu Tian sank into the water, countless alligators wildly charged forward. There was only a splash of water. It was clear they were being attacked by a group of alligators. Quickly come out. Meng Qingwu powerlessly kneeled on the ground. She did not have the joy of surviving, rather she was filled with deep guilt and pain. Chapter 327. When the crocodiles were about to tear Chu Tian to pieces, a ripple appeared in the lake and a strong pressure covered the surface of the lake. The giant crocodiles were filled with incomparable fear. It was like a powerful ancient demon beast had appeared and its aura was even more shocking than a dragon's aura. A snow-white figure emerged from the lake. It was a full 10 to 30 feet tall, and its entire body was spotless. Its snow-white fur was as smooth as silk, and it was as translucent as white jade. Its eyes were dark green like top-grade jade. This was a two-tailed white demon fox. When the giant crocodiles felt the white fox's aura, they all ran away in panic. The demon fox's green eyes suddenly lit up and an invisible spiritual energy spread in all directions. Almost in an instant, hundreds of giant crocodiles stopped moving. Their bodies froze for a few seconds, and then their eyes lit up with a strange green light. All of them turned into marionettes and pounced on each other and began to bite each other. Meng Qingwu watched in disbelief as over 100 giant crocodiles killed each other. Blood dyed the surface of the lake red. That white demon fox sank to the bottom of the lake and picked up Chu Tian before quickly jumping onto the shore. It shook off the water droplets on its fur and then its body quickly shrank. From a majestic two-tailed demon fox, it turned back into a cute little fox. The little fox gave a sneeze. Its two eyes revealed a look of exhaustion. It was a good thing he awakened his transformation ability at this critical moment, otherwise his master would have failed miserably this time. Little fox, good job. Meng Qingwu threw herself at Chu Tian and her hands kept slapping his face. How are you? Wake up. Quickly wake up for me. Chu Tian's eyelids felt as heavy as lead. There was a warm and soft hand patting his face and at the same time, a familiar voice called out to him. It was sometimes far away and sometimes right in front of him. Was it the young miss? So he wasn't dead yet. Meng Qingwu saw Chu Tian's eyelids move slightly. He finally reacted. She was relieved. I knew that a scourge like you wouldn't die so easily. Meng Qingwu leaned over and grabbed his shoulder and shook it hard. Irresponsible bastard. Do you think I will thank you for doing this? How do you want me to go back and face Ying? You made me suffer and feel guilty for the rest of my life. I will hate you for the rest of my life. Get up. Meng Qingwu's mood was very complicated. She was happy and sad, angry and touched. This guy liked to play the hero, but had he ever thought about her feelings? Did he think about Ying again? No matter what, he couldn't die, Miracle Commerce needed him, Ying needed him, Meng Qingwu also needed him. Alright, stop swaying. Even if I'm not bitten to death by the magical beasts, I'll still die from your swaying. Chu Tian weakly said. When he slowly opened his eyes and saw Meng Qingwu, he suddenly opened his eyes wide. Big. What big? Don't tell me you've become stupid. Meng Qingwu saw two eyes staring at her, so she looked over at Chu Tian's eyes in a puzzled manner. Meng Qingwu's eyes suddenly froze and her face turned red. At this moment, Meng Qingwu's two slender legs were spread apart and she was in a very ambiguous position, leaning over Chu Tian's body. Her face was not even a centimeter away from Chu Tian. In this position, according to the laws of gravity, the two magnificent peaks on Meng Qingwu's chest were very prominent. Looking down from her collar, one could see everything. A drop of water fell down from Meng Qingwu's slender white neck, flowing down to her snow-white peaks before finally falling into a bottomless ravine. Several strands of black hair fell down, contrasting against her milky white skin. Meng Qingwu was startled and wanted to stand up, but she used too much force and felt a splitting pain in her right leg. Probably because it affected her wound, Meng Qingwu fell back down again. Chu Tian felt as if two towering mountains were pressing down on his chest, almost forcing his soul out. Two soft and fragrant lips were right on his mouth. Little Fox immediately covered her eyes. Meng Qingwu's beautiful eyes widened, and Chu Tian's face was full of disbelief. Damn, my chastity. No way, I didn't know that this miss was such a fierce woman. Just because I saved her life, she took the initiative to give me a kiss and hug. Is she going to repay me with her body? If I don't respond to Miss's behavior, I wouldn't be a man. Chu Tian took the opportunity to hug Miss and give her a fierce bite. Meng Qingwu's mind instantly went blank. She subconsciously didn't resist, or perhaps there was an unspeakable excitement and anticipation in her heart. Miss, you're too despicable. You actually took advantage of me when I was weak and used this kind of forceful method to steal my first kiss. Chu Tian looked at Miss in horror, like an innocent girl who had been violated by a sex fiend. Meng Qingwu came back to her senses. When she saw Chu Tian's reaction, she almost fainted. It was obviously you, Missy, let's be reasonable, okay? I can't even move now. You were the one who hugged me and kissed me. Are you going to be irresponsible and accuse me instead? I didn't. Pay. Meng Qingwu felt that these words were inappropriate. Even the normally calm and steady her was flustered at this moment. Don't speak nonsense. Chu Tian confidently said, I don't care that much. Since I've done it, I have to admit it. Although your temper is a bit fierce, since it's like this, I can only accept my bad luck. I'll just accept you. I'm ignoring you. Meng Qingwu was so angry that she didn't care about her leg injury as she limped away. She didn't even take a few steps before she fell down again. Chu Tian saw that the young Miss' injury was not light, so he stopped teasing her. He picked up the netherworld sword on the side and gently slashed at the sky. A blue light fell onto the blade and the weapon spirit returned to the weapon. Those vultures had all been killed. Chu Tian sheathed the sword and immediately went to support the young miss. Let me see your injury. This was not up to you. Chu Tian directly supported her to sit on the ground. Although Meng Qingwu's mouth was protesting, her body did not resist at all. Chu Tian tore open his pants, revealing a snow-white thigh. There was a dark red wound in the middle, but Meng Qingwu had already used her spirit energy to seal the blood vessels, so there was no blood loss. It really is a poison arrow. Chu Tian gently pressed down on the young miss' injury. The poison has entered the bone. If we use Southern Xia's treatment methods, you won't be able to keep your leg. Meng Qingwu's body trembled in fright. Was it really that serious? Chu Tian gave a laugh. But you don't need to worry, this poison is completely different from the one used on the Southern Summer King. As long as the poison is controlled, I have a way to treat it and there won't be any side effects. While they were talking, Chu Tian took out a level 2 deciphering pill that he had personally refined and poured it into his mouth. The pill melted in his mouth and Chu Tian spat it onto the wound. Then he gently massaged the surrounding area, letting the medicinal liquid seep into the wound. Meng Qingwu could clearly feel that the pain was gradually decreasing. When she saw Chu Tian meticulously treating her, her expression eased up a bit. Chu Tian bandaged Meng Qingwu's wound and without even asking for her opinion, he directly carried Meng Qingwu on his back. Meng Qingwu was a bit panicked. What are you doing? You can't walk for now with this leg injury. Chu Tian carried Meng Qingwu to the south. The Warhounds tribe must still have pursuers. If we are caught by another wave, we will be dead for sure. We need to hurry to a safe place. Meng Qingwu was a bit resistant. She had never been this intimate with a man before, other than the accident that just happened. But Meng Qingwu was not an unreasonable person. After hesitating for a few seconds, she stretched out her arms and wrapped them around Chu Tian's neck. She closed her eyes and allowed this fellow to carry her forward. Feeling the young miss body like this was a very wonderful thing. However, Chu Tian's current condition was very bad. There was no place on his body that wasn't in pain and he was not in the mood to enjoy his luck with women. Meng Qingwu was quietly lying on Chu Tian's body. The two of them did not say a word at this time, but Meng Qingwu could clearly feel Chu Tian's weak pulse and his increasingly rapid breathing. He must have reached his limit and was only forcefully holding on with his shocking willpower. Meng Qingwu's heart was sour, not feeling good at all. Chu Tian was in this kind of condition, but he still acted like nothing was wrong. He was even deliberately angering her, but it was most likely to divert her attention. Chu Tian, let me ask you. Meng Qingwu asked in Chu Tian's ear, between me and Yingying, who do you think is better? Chu Tian felt the young miss breath on his ear, making him feel very comfortable. However, this question made Chu Tian choke quite a bit. That unprecedented tone made Chu Tian's heart tremble. Why are you asking this question? You sisters are not the same type, how can I compare? Then I'll change the method. I'm saying if, between me and Yingying, you could choose one to marry as your wife, who would you choose? Chu Tian could clearly feel that when the young miss asked this question, her heart was beating faster. What kind of question was this? Could it be a hint? He really couldn't be careless. Can't I marry both? Io, why are you pinching me? Meng Qingwu fiercely said, you can only choose one. The young Miss question was too tricky. Chu Tian had the best relationship with Ying. This was something the young Miss couldn't compare to. But if he chose Ying in front of the young Miss, wouldn't that hurt the young Miss' heart? Women were very complicated creatures. No matter how contradictory they were, deep in their hearts, they would want to choose her. But if he chose the young Miss, wouldn't he be letting down Ying? The young Miss loved her little sister so much, she would most likely express her opinion. This question was really hard for people to decide. Meng Qingwu said with a disdainful smile, is this question that hard to answer? You men really are eating from the bowl while looking at the pot. I'm wronged. I haven't eaten yet. At most I'm looking at the pot and staring at the food that hasn't entered the pot yet. Ooh. All right, I know the young Miss wants to make it hard for me. Chu Tian scratched his head. If I have to give an answer, then I'll choose the young Miss. Meng Qingwu's body slightly trembled. She was satisfied with this answer, but also dissatisfied. She kicked Chu Tian and said with a snort, why? Isn't Ying good enough? This wife needs to share a lot of work. Ying is so stupid, how could she help me manage the company? So the young Miss is the most suitable. As for Ying, you only said she could have one wife, you didn't say she couldn't have a concubine. Anyways, that girl doesn't care about status, right? You have no conscience. I'll kick you to death. Alright, then I'll choose Ying. I don't want a fierce wife. Io, why are you kicking me again? Then I don't want either of them. Wah, you're still kicking me, what do you want me to do? Meng Qingwu felt a bit embarrassed, she seemed to have overreacted. The two of them were silent for a while. If me and Ying end up benefiting you, will you find another woman? What do you mean? Forgive my stupidity, I don't understand. Don't pretend you don't understand. Nangong Kaidai Yunyao. Even Big Sister Bing, they are all 1 in 10,000 outstanding women. Do you dare pat your chest and guarantee you won't harm them? I don't believe you can say this kind of thing. To be honest, I really don't have any thoughts. Chu Tian shrugged his shoulders. But since the young Miss has no confidence in me, you won't believe me no matter what I say. Since it's like this, I might as well admit that I'm a person of universal love. It's also good to plan ahead. Fickle Big Radish, I'll kick you to death. Chu Tian finally saw it. The young Miss was normally a sensible person, but when she made a scene, she was even worse than Nangong Yun. It really made people look at her in a new light. Anyways, on the way here, Chu Tian's butt was almost swollen from being kicked. But playing with the young Miss, Chu Tian felt much more relaxed. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.